Friday, August 21st, 2020. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of That's What G Said. We will have NBA. Every team in the playoffs has 2 games through now. We're going to recap each of the series through the first 2 games. MLB, let's check in. Who's hot, who's not, what's going on in baseball. Hard Knocks. NFL, it's Hard Knocks L.A., so we know what's going on with the Chargers and with the Rams. Let's go over episode 2. We'll recap what happened there. And then we got all your weekend horse racing. Friday, Saratoga. Saturday, Saratoga. Friday, full car Del Mar. Saturday, Del Mar. We're going to go over your Friday stable dual lineup for Del Mar. Give you the info for all the contests. And then SummerSlam coming up this weekend. Darin Zoccali joins us, so we preview match by match the card for this weekend. Sunday night, wrestling fans, we got SummerSlam. They have a new Thunderdome debuting where there's going to be a sort of a live fan experience like we've seen in some of the other sports. So some things that are interesting and to look forward to in the world of wrestling this week. So do me a favor when you're listening now, stop if you can, subscribe to the show. If you're listening on YouTube, SoundCloud, iTunes, Google Podcasts, TuneIn, wherever you are. If you're over on iTunes, give us a nice little 5-star rating and review. That really helps. Share the show around on social media and with some of your friends that you think might help, because we just want to continue to keep this show growing. And one of the best ways to support That's What G Said, because I like to keep these shows free. I love to be able to produce content that everyone can tune into and listen to and never have to pay anything for. Help support those sponsors when you hear us talk about them. So anytime you need something in any of those fields, don't forget about those sponsors. Bookmark them, write them down. Or if you're ever thinking, I need a candle, I'm going to play some fantasy sports. So I need help in the field of real estate. Remember some of our sponsors. Heck, check back in on some of our shows. Look back through the commercials and get in touch with them, because they help to keep this show going each and every week. Okay, in the NBA, we've had every team, every series so far in the playoffs, they've played two games. So here we are. Jazz Nuggets are tied 1-1. Toronto's up 2-0 on Brooklyn. Boston's up 2-0 on Philly. Dallas and the Clippers are tied 1-1. Miami's up 2-0 on Indiana. Milwaukee's tied 1-1 with Orlando. Houston's up 2-0 on OKC. And the Lakers are tied 1-1 with the Blazers. So, in just this week, we've had Mike Conley had to leave because he's had a baby, but he's going to be back for Game 3. He missed Games 1 and 2. Joe Harris for Brooklyn played in Games 1 and 2, but now he's got to leave the bubble for personal reasons. Based on what happens in that series, who knows if he even plays another game this year. Gordon Hayward got hurt. Grade 3 ankle sprain. He's out at least 4 weeks, but those ankle injuries are more like 6 to 8 week injuries. How about Donovan Mitchell for Utah? Scored 57 points in a loss in the first game of the playoffs. The first game ended up going into overtime. And I love the way it's been, if you're a basketball fan like I am, with these 4-game slates every single day. It has been such a blast. Because the schedule for each of these series is every other day. 1 day off in between every other day. No travel, so they don't need extra days here and there. We had Porzingis get ejected in Game 1 of the series between the Clippers and the Mavericks, and that sort of turned that game. We had Milwaukee, the Lakers, and the Clippers, the 3 betting favorites, all split their series through the first 2 games. And honestly, Milwaukee looked a lot better winning Game 2. It wasn't really close. They still didn't look great. Middleton didn't look great. The Clippers could very easily be 0-2. They haven't looked very good. And the Lakers, they looked horrible in their first game. And while they won big in Game 2, and the energy level was much better, Anthony Davis played great. LeBron hasn't looked incredible. And, obviously, their shooting got better tonight. A lot of that was KCP, who hit 4 threes himself. So, none of the big 3 teams have looked incredible or unbeatable. Toronto, they didn't look that great. They had to pull it together late to get by Brooklyn. So, we haven't seen, Boston's been good, but they've been playing an undermanned Philly team. But we haven't seen anybody just look incredibly dominant yet. And in particular, the three teams that we expected to. Oladipo had to leave game one. He got poked in the eye. The one thing I've not liked, it just seems like there's been so many fouls, so many free throws overall, and a lot of cheap fouls, a lot of cheap technicals, both sides, both ways. I haven't seen too many games where I felt like, oh, this team got screwed one way or the other by the refs. You might say that in the Clippers game with the Porzingis thing, but again, it's hard to say that if Porzingis stays in the game, they win for sure. You just would like to have seen him in the game. That's all. We can't say for sure Dallas wins that game because the Clippers make runs and they lock down late in the games, and in particular in the fourth quarter when they want to. And they can flip a switch most of the time. The thing we're seeing with the Lakers, the Clippers, and the Bucks is that these teams are not the Warriors. Whether or not they'll get to the point where they're a group that can win multiple championships, none of these teams have done it yet. So they're not infallible. They're all beatable. This is one thing I've been saying all year long. Nobody is head and shoulders. I'm a Lakers fan, and so I know the Lakers are not unbeatable. They're one of the better teams, and I can breathe a sigh of relief now that they won tonight, but they're on the short list. Same thing with the Clippers, even same thing with the Bucks. I'd say the Raptors are on there too. But nobody's unbeatable. And I think the margin is so slim between everyone that a major injury or even a matchup here and there, depending on who wins a series or two, could really say a lot in who ends up winning it all. So let's get a little into each series. Okay, so the Jazz Nuggets in Game 1, so we've had no Conley for either game. Game 1 was the first playoff game of the year, went to overtime. Denver won 135-125. Mitchell was incredible. He had 57 points. That was the third most in a playoff game in NBA history. He had 22 points in the fourth quarter. Clarkson was really good off the bench. He's been really good in both games. Excellent. He had 26 points in Game 2 to 18 in Game 1. Mitchell made a play late. They were up 109-105 with 146 left, and he got called for an 8-second violation, and that may have cost them the game because Denver comes down and hits a three. They end up going to overtime, and they lose. If he's able to just get across the court, get a bucket, and they go up by 6 or 7 with a minute 25 left, that game's probably over. And the difference in the game might have been just 3-point percentage. Denver was 22 of 41. They shot 53%. Utah was 16 of 47. They shot 34%. And late in the game, when Mitchell was going off, Jamal Murray was going punch for punch with him. He ended up with 36 points, 9 assists, and 5 rebounds. He scored 20 points between the fourth quarter and overtime. He scored 10 in overtime. And he was just battling back and forth with Donovan. Game 2, Utah came back, and really they just kicked the crap out of Denver. 124-105. They went up 22-6, and they went on a 22-6 run to end the first half. So they were up 13 at the half, and they just never looked back. Mitchell scored 30 points. He had 8 assists. He was 10 of 14. He had 21 points in the third quarter. The Jazz shot 51% from the field, 45% from 3, and 82% from the free throw line. They had more assists, steals, blocks, and less turnovers, and they had 20 more points in the paint than Denver. They were up by 31 points in the fourth quarter. Joe Ingles had 18 points and 6 assists. Gobert had 19 points. And over for Denver, Michael Porter Jr. was 6 of 9 from 3, and Jokic had 28, 11, and 6, but Denver got crushed. So we got a series now. In particular with Mike Conley coming back. We've got a series. Denver needs help with some of their depth. They've been missing some key contributors for a while now. Martin and Harris. They are not deep enough to win big games and to win big series without them. They could still probably get through this one, but could Denver go and beat a Clippers team who, you probably still think they'll get through Dallas? I don't think Denver could do that healthy. Game 3, Friday, 4 o'clock Eastern Time. Jazz Nuggets, who's going to go up 2-1. Toronto, Brooklyn, they're up 2-0. And in Game 1, Toronto just crushed Brooklyn. They won 134-110. They led by 33 points in the second quarter. They were 22 of 44 from 3. We've seen some absurd 3-point shooting numbers. Most of them for the good. If you're the Lakers, they're for the bad. In Game 2, it was much tighter. Toronto won 104-99. Lowry had a late steal that really sealed the game. Brooklyn led for 3 quarters. They were up by 14 in the first quarter. The thing we find with Toronto, though, why this team is going to be such a tough out and why they're so good is they are so deep. This time it was Van Fleet, who had 24 points and 10 assists, and Powell, who had 24 points. Some games it's Lowry, other games it's Siakam, other games it's Anunoby who steps up, and it could be Gasol or Ibaka. There's so many different weapons, so many different options they have there in Toronto. And now for Brooklyn, unfortunately, I think they needed, just for their confidence as a team, to steal one of those first 2 games to make it feel like it could go back and forth, and now Joe Harris is going to leave. So now a Brooklyn team that's already been decimated by injury, players that have opted out, players that are not here with them, they're going to be missing another key, one of their best players now that's remaining. Joe Harris is gone. Game 3, Friday, 1:30 Eastern Time, Toronto and Brooklyn. Over in Boston, this was the series that I thought with Embiid, they would be able to keep this series close. And then, heck, after Game 1, when you find out that Hayward's going to be out for Game 2 and for the next month at least, you figure Philly's really got a puncher's chance in here. But that has not been the case. Boston's up 2-0. There are a couple of major reasons Boston has been pretty easily handling the series. One is Jason Tatum, and I think 2 is Coach Brad Stevens. You can point to a lot of other players in the 4, but Tatum has continued to rise. And he has had a very interesting career because he was so good in his rookie season. And then he came back and he struggled in his sophomore year in the NBA, his second season. And a lot of it, we find out now, had to do with Kyrie. It kind of stunted his growth and development with a ball stopper, someone who always has the ball in their hands like Kyrie. And it feels like Kemba is just a much better fit for this team. They like him better, and Jason Tatum has taken that step. He is better right now than I ever thought he would be. And I think a lot of people, even those who were high on him, didn't know if he could get to this level ever, and even this quickly. He's become like a 30-point scorer now. You can almost count on him for that. He's going to have some bad games here or there. He still has plenty of things he needs to work on, but he makes big shots. He makes such difficult shots. He plays very good defense, too. And in this particular matchup now, he doesn't really have to defend anyone. They've tried to have Horford to take him down into the post a little bit, but the way that Philly's team is built, Tatum can kind of sit back and kind of play help defense all over the place, because if Matisse Thybulle's in the game, he's not an offensive threat. And there's not really a wing offensive threat for Philly. And that's where this matchup has hurt Philly a lot, because you could look at it, and when we came into it, we looked at it 2 ways. And this is a 2-0 series that, Philly could win a game and put themselves right back in it. But what we've seen in both games, so let's go to Game 1. Boston wins 109-101. Embiid ends up 8 for 15. First of all, he needs more than 15 shots. Yes, he had a bunch of free throws too, but he needs more than that. He had 26 points and 16 rebounds. That's just not enough. He has to have 35 to 40 points at least. See, Tatum's been the best player in the series. He had 32 points, 13 rebounds, and assists, and 3 blocks. And then you get Jaylen Brown, who's so smooth, and you hear a lot about Tatum, and Brown is just right there, and he contributes, and he produces. He had 29, 6 rebounds, 4 assists, 3 steals. He had 15 points in the fourth quarter. Tatum had 15 points in the second quarter. In Game 1, the Celtics were up by 6 at half, and then the 76ers go on a 15-0 run late in the third. They're up by 4 to start the fourth quarter, And then the Celtics come right back with their run. They go on a 9-0 run. Boston ended up getting 21 points off of the 18 Philly turnovers. You saw a good game from Harris as far as assists are concerned. When I'm watching these games, I don't ever notice Tobias Harris out there. I just don't. For a guy who makes max money and as much money as he doesn't even feel like he's out on the court a lot. So, the Boston Celtics scored 21 points off of 18 Philly turnovers. That played a big role in Game 1 that Boston ends up winning by 8. So Game 2, Boston wins 128-101. Tatum again set a new playoff career high. He one-ups himself. He has 33 points. Embiid has 34 points and 10 rebounds. The 76ers come out again, and they're playing well early. They're up by 14 in the first quarter. And then they go from up 14 in the first quarter to down by 8 at half, and they were never close again. Down by as much as 28. They only shot 5 of 21 from the 3, and Boston was 19 of 43. Right there. You make 5 threes, just like the Lakers did the other night, and your opponent makes 19 of them. Tatum's been the best player in the series, not Embiid. Tybal entered the starting lineup in Game 2. They had Horford off the bench. It didn't matter much because whatever Philly starts to do well, Stevens figures it out, makes an adjustment, and unfortunately Brett Brown either can't make a readjustment or doesn't have enough of the personnel right now to do so. Been so disappointed with Harris. Expected more from Horford. Even Richardson, who's been okay. I thought all of them were better and had the ability to elevate their game when need be, and they just have not been able to do so. And the Celtics have. Game 3, Friday, 6:30 Eastern, and this is probably, this is the season for Philly. They ain't coming back from 3-0. This is probably Coach Brett Brown's career. If they don't win this series, and it's unfortunate again because Simmons is out, right? And in most of their playoff exits, they haven't been healthy. But even when they have been, he has not been able to make it work. He's been given opportunity after opportunity. And this was a Philly team that we thought was going to be so good and be such a top contender for such a long time. Trust the process. They haven't really gotten close. To me, I guess of all the series, I'm the most surprised with this Clippers-Mavericks one. And I'm not surprised that the Clippers aren't playing that great right now because they were really unlucky in the bubble. They had a lot of players that were either late to join them, players that had to go in and out, players that have had some sort of an injury, from Lou Williams having to leave, Montrezl Harrell having to leave, Landry Shamet had issues and injury, Patrick Beverley's had issues and injury, Zubac was late on the scene. So it hasn't been smooth for the Clippers. And when you look at their roster, I think everybody, what's weird about the Clippers is we all feel so comfortable and confident with them that they're just going to be there, but we really haven't seen it yet. And this team could be down 0-2 right now. Again, they could be. And what's nice is they're not. They're tied 1-1. And, in Game 1, they win 108-100. These games have been really fun to watch and just sort of bizarre the way they've gone. So in Game 1, Doncic had 42 points, 9 assists, 7 rebounds, 3 steals, and 11 turnovers. To start the game, Dallas could not even get a shot off. They had 5 turnovers almost immediately. And within the first 2 minutes, they're down 10-0. They're down 18-4 to start. And it's looking like, are the Clippers just able to pick their defense up so much that the Mavericks have no shot here? And then quickly, looked like Luka gets hurt. So Doncic goes out. And all of a sudden, they make a run. And it's tied 22-22 with 4 minutes left to go in the first quarter. Dallas was up 38-34 at the end of the first. They ended up scoring 38 points. They were up 50-36, and then the Clippers make a run. It's only a 3-point game at half. Dallas is actually up 69-66. With 9 minutes left to go in the third quarter, Dallas is up by 5. and then Porzingis gets ejected for his second technical. And that's when the game changed. Because let's be honest, Dallas has a shot to beat the Clippers. Clippers obviously have a much better chance to win the series. But Dallas needs things to go well for them. They need Porzingis and Doncic to play well. And if Porzingis isn't in there, they don't have enough. The Clippers just have too many weapons, too many options. And that's what ended up happening. So, with 9 minutes left to go in the game, and again, I'm going to say this for the fifth time. Because did it make it easier for the Clippers to win? Did the momentum shift? Did things change when Porzingis left? I think so. Yes. Does that mean that the Clippers were going to lose this game if Porzingis stayed in all the way through? No, not at all. It's a 5-point game, and the Clippers are a very good late fourth quarter team. But without Porzingis there, they just flip a switch. They go from down 5, and all of a sudden by the end of the third quarter, they're up by 5. Dallas only scored 13 points in that third quarter. So, you know, a better third quarter or Porzingis staying in the game, they've been the better team in this series. Can Doc make the adjustments now? Carlisle's a very good coach too. And Luka is one of those players that has raised his game. Now, Kawhi's been really good. In game 1, Paul George was very good too. He had 27 points. He had 4 3-pointers. Kawhi had 29 points and 12 rebounds, 6 assists, and 3 steals. And Marcus Morris had 19 points, 6 rebounds, and 4 steals. And this game was tied in 89 in the fourth quarter, and it was 103-100 with 3 minutes left. The Clippers just have too much late. They can come up with a couple stops. They have, 5, 6 guys, that can come in and hit a big three late in the game and not even think about it. So, Clippers are able to get through game 1, and in a game where, you didn't play that well, it was close late. Dallas had an opportunity to beat you even without Porzingis. In these playoff games, it's all about surviving now. So it really doesn't matter how you look as long as you keep winning, right? As fans and as analysts, we all want to see these teams look as great as possible. But who cares if the Clippers look like crap and they come out tomorrow or Friday, and on Friday they win the game by 1 point and now they're up 2-1, even if they feel like they've been outplayed in the series, if they're up 2-1, who cares? In game 2, the Mavericks just kicked the crap out of the Clippers. They led by as many as 18 points. They ended up winning the game 127-114. Dallas won every quarter. The Clippers never led in the game. Doncic only played 9 minutes in the second half because he was in foul trouble. There was a big run for the Mavericks when he was sitting. It looked like a great opportunity for the Clippers to make a run, but they really struggled. And honestly, Pat Beverly, like him or not, he is a big part of this Clippers team because even if he scores 0 points and goes 0 for 4, he sets a tone defensively. He's going to give you 5 fouls. He's going to be barking at the officials a little bit. He just kind of changes the complexion of the game. He keeps the Clippers a little bit more up and on edge. They got a real lackadaisical here. Paul George was only 4 for 17. He had 14 points. I imagine he bounces back with a pretty big game. He was kind of chirping on social media after, telling everybody who was talking trash to him to kind of screw off. Dallas ended up getting up in this game 15-2. Then the Clippers come back. It's only a 4-point game after 1. But Dallas led by as many as 17 in the second quarter. Clippers cut it again to a close game at the half, 61-56. But Dallas just blows them out in the second half. Porzingis had 23 points. Luka had 28. Trey Burke, Seth Curry, and Boban. That's the key, the bench. Burke had 16. Curry had 15. Boban had 13. Kawhi was 10 for 21. He had 35 points. Lou Williams had 23. From a three-point line, the Clippers were 10 for 34. Dallas was 13 for 29. But the Clippers also had 15 turnovers, which hurt them there. And again, this game really was a blowout. Wasn't all that close. Clippers got to bounce back on Friday and play a little bit better. 9 Eastern, Game 3 on Friday. Before we get to the next wave of games, let's talk a little bit about Thrive Fantasy. So if you're listening to this, you're an NBA fan, And right now with the NBA back, with baseball back, one of these new fantasy sports apps, a DFS app, is Thrive Fantasy. They have contests every single day. If you're baseball, basketball, League of Legends, golf, all sorts of different contests, soccer. Now they've got the football contest up. The NFL is back. Week 1 contests are up. So for week 1, there's the Thursday contest. It's the Chiefs-Texans game. It's a $25 entry, $2,500 to the first place, and $10,000 in guaranteed pool. On Sunday, the competition, $25 entry, $5,500 to the winner, $20,000 in guaranteed prizes. And then they also have a Sunday touchdowns only. It's a $20 entry with a $2,500 first prize and $10,000 guaranteed. 3 big contests and a ton of other ones that you can play in for $2, for $5. Remember, you get a bonus right now. Just use the promo code Gino. If you like to play fantasy, if you play DFS, this is a new site, and you're going to get a little added bonus. You're going to get a $20 bonus just by using the promo code Gino and depositing $20. So you go, deposit $20, promo code Gino. In a minute or two, you'll get that instant bonus, and you'll have $40 in there. You can play in a couple of these contests. You can check them all out. I will put up a couple videos this week and show you what the app looks like. Don't forget, use that promo code GINO. I get a few bucks in my pocket. You get the $20 deposit bonus when you deposit your $20. Thrive Fantasy NFL Week 1 competition contests are up. So the next slate of series, Miami is up 2-0 on Indy. It's unfortunate because Indy, it seems like this happens to Indy every year. They have a good season. They play really well. They overachieve a little bit in the regular season, and they suffer injuries, but everybody steps up, and then they get into the playoffs, and they have a tough series, and they play really hard, but they just don't have enough talent. And I think that's the case again this year with Indy. They lost game 1, 113-101. They kept going back and forth and battling, but with no Sabonis. And then in game 1, Oladipo got poked in the eye, and he missed, a lot of game 1. So they really didn't have enough firepower without those two. And Warren and Brogdon and Turner, they can do, everything they can. They just, for a Miami team that's got Jimmy Butler and Dragic helping to close things out, they got Adebayo, they got Iggy there, they got Hero, Crowder, Olynyk, Duncan Robinson. This is a good, well-built, well-rounded Miami team. They're well coached, and they don't, they have an issue with Kendrick Nunn, who's now not become as much of a big piece for this team. They're not dealing with issues to major pieces like Indy is. In game 2, Miami won 109-100. Duncan Robinson scored 24 points. He had 7 threes. And the Heat set a record with 18 made three-pointers, playoff record. They were 18 for 35. Oladipo did play this game in game 2. He was 5 of 14. He had 22 points. And Miles Turner had 17 points, 8 rebounds, and 5 blocks. He was 7 of 8. They're going to battle you, Indy. They just don't have enough. Game 3 on Saturday. Miami up 2-0, looking to go up a commanding 3-0. Bucks and Magic tied 1-1. One of the major shockers of this playoff, round early on was the Bucks winning game 1 over the Magic. Not only winning, they crushed them 122-110. Vucevic had 35 points and 14 rebounds, and the Bucks shot 43% as a team. The Magic bench outscored the Bucks bench. They didn't have Aaron Gordon playing. No Jonathan Isaac. Even Michael Carter-Williams isn't playing. And they won that game easily. Bucks came back in game 2, won 111-96. They shot 47% from the field, and the Magic only shot 35%. They really turned up their defense a little. Yeah, the Magic only shot 21% from 3. And they got more help. They got more contributions from, Brook Lopez had 20 points. He had 4 threes. Connaughton had 15 points. They led by as many as 23. But Middleton was just 1 of 8. He only had 2 points. He has not been good as the other guy for them, the number 2 guy for this Eastern Conference favored Milwaukee Bucks team. So 1-1 for them, but they haven't looked the dominant Milwaukee team like we saw earlier in the year. I'll tell you, Houston may look the best that Houston and Boston have probably looked the best with what they've been able to do and kind of turn it on, hit shots, and play defense. Boston's defense has been really solid. Houston's defense has been excellent. It's just an effort thing, and they don't have Westbrook through these first few games. What is amazing is they're getting major production from House, Jeff Green, Austin Rivers, Ben McLemore. These are players that are not that anybody could have had. They were out of Jeff Green's floated all around. McLemore has been all around. House was a G leaguer. Rivers has been out there for whoever wants him. And they're hitting big shots. They're playing defense. They're helping spread the floor. They know their roles. They don't try to do too much, but they're just confident. And D'Antoni kind of injects this confidence in you, and he just wants you to take your open shots. He never gets mad at you or upset at you for taking an open shot. He gets more upset for not taking the shot. They were always up about 15 points in game one. It was 123 to 108. Harden had 37 and 11. Jeff Green had 22 points, and Eric Gordon had 21. They were 20 of 52 from 3. And OKC had only 2 fast break points. Houston led by as many as 23. Game 2, Houston wins 111 to 98. And this one was sort of weird when you look at it on paper. So Harden is 5 of 16. He has 21 points and 9 assists, but he's only 2 of 11 from 3. And Eric Gordon was 0 for 10 from 3. So if I told you Harden and Eric Gordon shoot together 2 for 21 from 3, would you think Houston won this game? I sure as hell wouldn't. Yet, everyone else on the team ends up a combined 17 for 35. They had 6 guys other than Gordon or Harden make multiple three-pointers in the game. Just a great outing from those role players, the other guys. House, Green, Rivers, McLemore, PJ Tucker. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander had 31 points. Chris Paul for his plus-minus. Now, I think plus-minus generally is a pretty good tool. Sometimes it can be very deceiving, but you have to dig into it a little bit. But for the most part, it gives you an idea of how somebody's been playing. He was a minus 36. And he said after the game that he's got to be better. This is one team that I would expect to bounce back in Game 3. And I think it's nice for Houston because they can sort of relax a little bit and let Westbrook heal. They don't have to feel forced to bring him back. I think for Game 3, you at least... And I don't know how close he is. He may not even be close. But they don't have to feel now up to as rushed to want to bring him back. I think OKC is going to bounce back and play really well in Game 3. This is another one that 2 of the series that I picked to go to 7 with one of the winners, I'm down 0-2. I had Philly in 7 over Boston and OKC in 7 over Houston. And that Philly-Boston, just after watching the first 2 games, I would 100% change my prediction. You know, but I don't do. I'm not going to do something like that. I just can't. It was just a bad prediction. Boston's coaching staff is just too good. Stevens is just too good, and I would probably lean more towards Houston. I just don't trust Houston if they can keep this defense up with these particular players playing this level of defense. They're not unbelievable defensive guys. Can they sustain this for the rest of this series? And then if they have to go on and play, you know, hopefully the Lakers and maybe the Blazers, who knows, I'm fingers crossed Lakers, as we get into this Lakers-Blazers series now tied up at 1 game apiece. And this was the Lakers' first playoff win since May of 2012. How about that? 8.5 years. Well, not a half, but 8+ years. In Game 1, the Lakers lost 193. They shot 35% from the field. Anthony Davis was only 8 for 24. he looked really off balance. He didn't get very many good shots up. He was a lot of fading away, falling away, kind of trying to draw fouls. And he actually mentioned that after Game 2, and that he felt like he was way off balance in Game 1. And you could see his gait was very weird. He just looked off. And he's a great free throw shooter. He shot 12 of 17 from the free throw line. He ended up missing 2 really big free throws late in the game. There was a point in the game where the Lakers were up by 6 late, and they ended up missing 4 free throws in a row right around that time period. 2 from Davis, 2 from LeBron, and they end up going from up 4, up 6 to all of a sudden the game is tied. They're down 1, and if they're able to put those free throws in, they probably win the game. And we're probably sitting here talking about the Lakers being up 2-0. If the Lakers can hit more than 5 3-pointers in Game 1, we're definitely talking about them winning Game 1. They were 5 for 34. That was 16%. That was the second lowest in NBA playoff history. So what did we know about the Lakers after that game? That the Lakers weren't a great three-point shooting team this year, and they've been even worse in the bubble, but bad is 33, 34%. This team shot 16%. So they could have shot double what they shot and still not been good. Still been lower than their season average. And that's what they did in Game 2. They just came back to life a little bit. Honestly, it really only takes 1 or 2 of your guys having a game where you hit a few of them to just, for the Lakers, that's all they need to be good and to be competitive. They don't have to shoot 50% from 3. They don't have to make a ton of threes. They just have to make some of their open threes. More than anything, they have to not miss as many as they did in Game 1. Davis was terrible from 3. LeBron was terrible from 3. Nobody was good from 3. Danny Green was awful from 3. KCP was awful. They were awful, every one of them. Kuzma didn't shoot well from 3. Nobody did. Caruso didn't. Game 2, they weren't incredible. They were just a little bit, they were just better. They were 14 for 38, which is 36%. And KCP was a big part of that. He had 4 of those threes. He was 4 for 6, and he had a total of 16 points. And in Game 1, it really came down to the Lakers not being able to close, and Lillard and the Blazers making plays late. Game 2, completely different story. And in Game 1, we had 64 free throws shot. There was no flow. It was ugly. It wasn't, I'm not saying the Lakers were getting screwed by the refs or the Blazers were. It was terrible for both sides in that it was just foul, 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 miss shot, shot, foul, foul. It was just too much. Game 2, a much different story. Lakers win this game 111-88, and honestly, they didn't even play that well. Anthony Davis played great, and the energy was very good. AD had 31 points, 11 rebounds, 3 assists, a steal, and a block in 29 minutes. And his shot selection was much better. He was very aggressive, going for loose balls. He was working hard. He was the hardest working player on the court tonight, hands down. And the Lakers were up by 30 going into the fourth quarter. JaVale McGee, he's been a topic of discussion. As the Lakers get out of these slow starts when he's on the court, his energy was very good to start. They played excellent defense again. This Lakers team held the Blazers to 88 points after holding them to only 100 points in Game 1. So the defense has been there for the Lakers, which you want to see. Even when the shooting and scoring has not been there, the defense held strong. This is a team that can really turn it on. And that's what happens when you have KCP, Caruso, Danny Green out there. Even when they're not making shots, they play pretty good defense they play good defense. So when you have combinations of those three out there, along with a LeBron and an AD and or a JaVale and a Dwight, all of a sudden you're looking at 7 pretty solid defensive players. Kuzma has become a much better defender. He's not a minus on the defensive end anymore. He can defend multiple positions, and he can defend guys. If they're really quick, he's in some trouble. But if it's a guy with a little bit more size and more footwork and more technique, That's that player that Kuzma is, so he can defend the mirror version of him pretty well. And that's what we're seeing with the Lakers. We can trust their defense. I mean, LeBron was only 4 for 11. He had 10 points, 7 assists, and 6 rebounds. He only played 27 minutes because it was a blowout. And they have much better versions of the game they can play. They only shot 10 free throws. I mean, this is another one. If I told you that the Lakers only got 17 points combined between LeBron and Kuzma, you'd probably think they lost. If I told you LeBron had 10 and Kuzma had 7, we'd say, Lakers got beat by 20. Not they were up by 30. We saw J.R. Smith and Waiters getting into this lineup earlier because I think Vogel, that's exactly what we wanted to see from Vogel, willing to make some rotation adjustments, try a couple things out, see what worked. Some things didn't, some did. Okay, now he knows what he might go to or what matchups he likes going into Game 3. Damian Lillard came out of the game with a dislocated finger, but he looks like he will play in Game 3. He's already said he wants to play in Game 3 on Saturday. Miami, Houston, the Bucks, and the Lakers, Blazers all will play on Saturday. They're Game 3s. And the question we have now with the Blazers is, are they tired? We've seen this team have to play at such a high level now for 3 consecutive weeks. It looks like Nurkic is tired. Dame looked a little bit tired. All of their players have had to play heavy minutes. They don't have one of the deeper benches in the world. They're only about 3 deep off the bench. No Collins around now, too, which means there's just another body out there that could eat up some minutes. Will they have enough to keep going and play a Lakers team that seems like they woke up a little bit? But, I mean, the same concerns that you have with Milwaukee and with the Clippers not playing great, if LeBron isn't going to be able to get to the level of LeBron, the Lakers have no chance to win the title. They can still get through this series, probably. They can still get through a couple series. But will they be able to beat the best version of the Clippers, Bucks, Raptors, some of those teams, if they're playing at their best, without LeBron completely tuned in and focused? No. There's been a lot of rumors about things behind the scenes with LeBron. He's had some weird quotes where he said things are not going great, and then he mentioned it had nothing to do with the team. There may be some things in his personal life. He missed a bunch of layups in the Thursday night game, and he seemed very passive. He hasn't quite seemed himself. Even in Game 1, his numbers were better, but he wasn't incredible, and down the stretch, he lost the battle of the stars down the stretch to the Blazers stars. They won that game. It was a game. Game 1 was a game for the taking. The Lakers crapped the bed early. They were lucky to be in it. They were lucky to get up by 6 points in the fourth quarter and have a chance to just play one quarter of pretty good basketball, 1 quarter and a half, and be able to win, and they couldn't even really do that. So, yeah, I mean, as a Laker fan, seeing, and as just an analyst, knowing the Lakers team, their depth, what they have compared to Portland, it's just a little too much, the size and the options in a series. But if we're not getting LeBron at LeBron level and we are getting Dame at Dame level, and we'll see what happens with this dislocated finger, this could be a series. Remember, C.J. McCollum's got the back issue too, so he's a little bit banged up, and it seems like they're starting to get tired. Again, they played really poor, though. They didn't really play awesome in either of these games. They haven't had one of these blitzed scoring games. You know they're going to have a game like that where they all shoot well and they score 120 points. It's just, can the Lakers score 125 in that game? Basketball, 4 more games on Friday. Let's transition over to baseball. The Mets have had a game canceled because of a COVID case, and so now we don't know when we're going to see the Mets again. They were slated to play the Yankees this weekend. We'd have to imagine those games are going to be canceled. It seemed like baseball was sort of, and we're never over this or past this, but it kind of felt that way. Wednesday would have been the first time all 30 teams have played a game this year, one of them got rained out. So it didn't have anything to do with COVID, but now we've got another COVID issue. So, again, we'll see, because these developments are sort of day by day and hour by hour. And the Mets had won 3 in a row. They were actually playing pretty well. They were up to 12-14 and not far out of a playoff spot. So, now we'll have to wait and see what happens with the Mets. They'll be dealing with issues similar to that the Marlins had and the Cardinals have had, and some of these teams now who are well behind and having to play doubleheaders to try to catch up. The Yankees are struggling a little bit. They went through a stretch where they started to play really well, and then they just got hit by injury, just like they did last year. And so they lost 3 in a row, while Tampa's won 5 in a row. And so Tampa jumped over the Yankees in the AL East. Tampa is now 17-9. They swept Boston. They swept the Yankees. They're a half game up on the Yankees, who have now Aaron Judge, Giancarlo Stanton, DJ LeMahieu, Zach Britton, Tommy Kahnle, Gleyber Torres, and Paxton, all with injuries. Aaron Judge, Stanton, DJ, Britton, Kahnle, all on the IL. You can throw Severino in the mix if you want, because that was before the season. And then Gleibar just left the game earlier, and so did Paxton with an elbow issue. That's crazy. This happened to them last year. How could it happen again? You wonder now if it happened. Is this group? We know with Stanton, he's been injury prone. And we don't want to say that with Judge, but he has had some issues. He's just a big guy. Big body. It's harder to keep big bodies like that healthy all the time. So we'll see. Can these Yankees weather the storm? They've just lost 3 in a row. Right now, what's crazy, they would be the 5 seed in the playoffs in the American League. So Baltimore, what we've seen now too in the last week and a half, some of the teams that were supposed to be really, really bad but had great starts are coming back to life now. The 3 that jump out, Baltimore, Detroit, and the Marlins. So Baltimore's lost 5 in a row. The Tigers were 9-5. They've lost 9 in a row. They're 9-14 now. And the Marlins were 9-3. No, 9-4. They've lost 5 in a row now. They're 9-9. So these teams that overachieved a little bit early, they're starting to come back to life now. The AL Central, those top 3 teams in there are playing really good baseball. They're starting to separate themselves. Twins are 17-9. They're 7-3 in their last 10. Indians are 16-9. They're 8-2 in the last 10. They've won 6 in a row. And remember, a couple of their major pitchers, they've sent down for disciplinary reasons. The White Sox, they're 15-11 now. They're 7-3 in their last 10. They've won 5 in a row. The hottest team in baseball, though, I hate saying this, and I think everybody hates hearing it and everybody hates reading about it and seeing it unless you're an Astro fan. The Astros are playing some good baseball right now. They've won 8 in a row. They're 15-10. They're still 2 games back of the A's, but a week ago, it started feeling like this team could maybe miss the playoffs. They were struggling. They were not looking good, and they just have gone on a tear and played some really good baseball. They beat up on the Rockies a little bit. The A's, 18-8, just solid and one of baseball's best. And in that division, the Rangers and the Angels continue to struggle. The Rangers have lost 5 in a row, and the Angels have lost 3 in a row. They are 8-18. If the playoffs started today, as of Friday in baseball, the 8 playoff teams in the American League would be Oakland, Tampa, Minnesota, Cleveland, Yankees, Astros, White Sox, Blue Jays. So we'd have an Oakland A's versus Toronto Blue Jays series. We would have a Tampa Rays versus Chicago White Sox series. We'd have a Twins Astros series, which would be a lot of fun. And then an Indians Yankees series, which would be a lot of fun because you get the pitching of the Indians versus the bats of the Yanks. Over on the national side, talked about the Marlins. They've lost 5 in a row in the East. The Mets, they won the 3 straight. And the Phillies, and the Nationals continue to struggle. Phillies have lost 3 in a row, and the Nationals and Phillies are tied at 9-12. So a division that people thought would be better and competitive is really not. And the Central Division is another one that I think a lot of people thought would be much more competitive, and it hasn't been so far. The Cubs just continue to play good ball. They're 16-8. All they have to do is play 500 now for the next 35 games. Kimbrel picked up a save. If he can get back to some version of Kimbrel and help them with their bullpen, they're getting number 1 starter stuff from Yu Darvish. You have to imagine they're going to start hitting. Their bats have not been great or sexy. They're only 9th in the National League in runs scored. They're just winning off their pitching right now, which is not the way you would think this team would be winning. So if they stack it up with Darvish, Hendricks, and Lester, how much can they get out of Lester? Maybe in this shortened season they can get enough out of him. This Cubs team is playing a lot better than I thought they would be. The Reds, who are a hot team for many, including me, they're already 5.5 games out of first place. They just can't put it together. Cardinals having to make up a lot of games. They're 7-7. They're 4 games out of first. And how about the lowly Pirates in the NL Central? 4-17. They've lost 4 straight games. They are awful. Just awful. It's not what you can say about the NL West. We got all 5 teams with double-digit wins in this division. You got 4 teams at 500 or better. You got the Dodgers now, who are really starting to play some good baseball. They are 8-2 over their last 10. They have a plus 66 run differential, which is number 1 in baseball. The team with the second best run differential in the National League is the Cubs. That's plus 15. So the Dodgers' run differential versus the Cubs, 66-15. The second best team in the entire league is at plus 39, and that's the Twins. So we're talking about a Dodgers team that is just crushing teams right now. They are a game and a half better than every team in the National League. The Cubs are a game and a half behind the Dodgers for the best record in the NL. And Atlanta's 4 games behind the Dodgers, who are starting to separate themselves now. Padres have won 4 in a row. They're up to 15-12. And they are the first team in history with 4 straight games with a grand slam. That's a pretty cool stat. The Rockies, who are a good start, they've lost 4 in a row. They're 13-12, and they are just 2-8 in their last 10. They would still be in the playoffs, though. Right now, in the National League, it would be Dodgers, Cubs, Braves, Padres, Rockies, Marlins, Cardinals, D-backs. So we'd get a Dodgers-Diamondbacks series, we'd get a Cubs-Cardinals series, we'd get a Braves-Marlins series, and we get a Padres-Rockies series. So we'd have 4 series that would be all divisional. Dodgers-D-backs, Cubs-Cardinals, Braves-Marlins, and Padres-Rockies. That'd be kind of interesting there. Baseball, we'll check back in next week. Things are going. Things are moving right now. Every few days, it's another big chunk of the season gone. One of our longtime sponsors on That's What G said, Sarah Candle Company, the website, sarahcandles.com, C-E-R-A candles.com. And the goal of this company was to create a candle that was 100% natural and clean burning, the highest quality that everyone can enjoy. Are you someone who likes candles? I like candles. I like to burn them all the time. I like to make sure there's a nice scent in the house. And what I like about these particular candles is they're better for you. Next time you're looking to buy some candles, just write down sarahcandles.com. We have a promo code GINO that's going to get you 10% off your purchase, so you have a little incentive to try them. They have all natural soy wax in them, which means they're free from toxins that are found in paraffin wax, a lot of the other leading candle brands use. And the natural soy wax will actually hold your scent better and will burn up to 50% longer than those traditional paraffin wax candles. These things are made with 100% lead-free cotton wicks, completely natural scents, micro batches, hand-poured to ensure the highest quality, locally sourced, handcrafted in the USA. We've got 25 different scents over at Sarah Candles. fragrance oils that are infused with natural essential oils. And they've got instructions and details on how to have the perfect burn, how to make sure to take care of your candle. Because remember, you want to trim the wick a little bit. You want to make sure that you're not lighting a wick that was burned from last time out. It'll tell you how to use the top of the candle to put it out instead of blowing it out. Different things that'll give you a better burn and will keep your candle better to last longer. This was created by people who love candles. They started out experimenting, trying to create the perfect candle, and now they've blossomed into Sarah Candle Company. You've heard Tyler Herringer, the head honcho of this company. He's a big sports fan. He's been on here a couple times. Very good friend of mine. Promo code GINO helps them out, helps you out. You get 10% off, helps me out. I look good with one of my sponsors. You put a few bucks in my pocket. Let's do the old triangle of help right here. Sarah Candle Company. You get a great candle. You help out a nice company, and you help me out a little bit too. I'm burning these things every day. Promo code GINO gets you 10% off your purchase. Let's get to some NFL. Hard Knocks Episode 2, HBO. So, Hard Knocks Episode 2, where we're getting Hard Knocks L.A., Chargers, and Rams. We actually get to see a little more football in here. The very beginning, it's the walkthroughs, and Sean McVay is talking about how they don't want too many self-inflicted wounds. They don't want to be a team that beats themselves on September the 13th. It feels so quickly. It feels right there. Football, just a few weeks away. So Anthony Lynn, it's funny. I like him watching this show. He's been funny. He can't figure out the megaphone. And so things now, phase 2 are just they're almost here. The sliding glide tempo is what they're calling it. Things are slightly ramping up because the protocols are working. They've had no positive tests for players for either team. And the veterans get to stay at home, which is a little bit different. The rookies have to stay in the team hotel. It's different for them without extra camp time and preseason games for these rookies, especially these undrafted rookies. They don't get the opportunity to show the coaches more of what they have. There are less reps for them, less opportunities in a preseason game to go out there and show that they can play at the high level. You know, Austin Eckler, he's running back for the Chargers, talking about how the preseason helped him get into a game, helped him get noticed. He wants to help some of the undrafted guys like Darius Bradwell, who is a little overweight. He's a running back, and the coaches are on him. They like him, but he's heavier than the guy they saw on tape, and he's working really hard to try to lose the weight, doing extra stuff after practice. We see Jalen Ramsey looking for a house. He's got one personalized for him by the owners. They've set this thing all up in Thousand Oaks, this massive house. They did research on him to find out some of the things that he likes. So there's his family pictures and stuff all over. There's things that he is a fan of, art, some of his hobbies all over the place. They really, tailored this house perfectly to him. He mentioned how getting traded to the Rams was one of the best days of his life. We see the rookie linebacker for the Chargers, Clay Johnson. He's a talker. He's goofy. He's trying to learn. He seems to be struggling a little bit. He's a little annoying, but he means really well. You could tell he really cares. He's just asking a ton of questions and talking a lot, and a lot of the guys are just rolling their eyes at him. But he's asking some of the older veterans for help, and they're just trying to tell him to keep it simple. But his confidence does seem a little shaken when we see him. Jared Goff, with the cool little mini golf setup at his place. He's got one of these setups where he's chipping down to where the putting green is. So it's like the mini golf setup where you hit into the clown's mouth and then it goes down. But instead of hitting it into something and it just shoots it down, he just chips from a top level down to a bottom level, which is pretty cool. And we see him just talking about his learning process over the last couple of years as he's going through reps at practice, and Sean McVay is out there running the show, which is really funny. His energy is contagious. He would be hard not to be smiling or to be really focused around. He's out there, dun 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 dun, dun 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 dun, just having fun with all the guys. One thing that wasn't fun was when one of the Charger staffers tested positive, or so they thought. They thought he had tested positive for COVID, so then they have to kind of wait and see more. Who has he been around? Who has he interacted with? Do they have to quarantine them? What's going to happen? They ended up finding out it was a false positive, so he takes a couple tests that are negative, and he's able to come right back and get back in the swing of things and only miss a couple days. But that was a big scare for them because he's been very careful. He's been gloves, masks, not interacting with a lot of people, and they weren't sure how he got it. And they found out, okay, that he actually didn't. So Justin Herbert, rookie, quarterback, out taking some snaps, and man, he looks so good. All the physical tools. And the coaches really like him, but they want him to be a little more vocal and to lead a little bit more. He's got to learn the pro cadence now. It's much different than running the shotgun at Oregon. And they can see what he does before he does it. He's telegraphing the plays they're going to run in the play action. When it's going to be a handoff, when he's going to tuck it, and he's going to throw. So Justin's trying to watch Tyrod and to learn because some of the linemen are giving him pointers out there. And we see one of the best players in the league, Aaron Donald, just looking beastly as always. Veteran offensive lineman Andrew Whitworth, he's helping the youngins. He's 38, he's the old man. And his family is just recovering from COVID also. His nanny had it, gave it to his family, his kids, his wife, his in-laws, they all had it. His father was in a hospital for 5 days, so he knows how serious this can be. He takes it very seriously. And we see the league taking this seriously because the players are getting their wristbands that will alert them to everything. COVID, social distancing, temperature, how far they are away from someone. Are they looking like their immune system is low? They get all these signals with these wristbands. And it's hard for players. Can you imagine? These are players who have had a routine developed for 10, 15, 20 years where you've done things one way, and now you just have to stand farther away. It's not stupid. It's not trying to disrespect or not follow the rules. It's just I've always been able to walk up and talk to somebody, give them a fist bump. It's just your muscle memory, your body, it's just different. It's just different, and it's not always easy. The Chargers coach is back after the couple of clean tests. Now we see the players talking about their favorite fish to eat. They're talking about fish eyes. No thank you for a picky eater like me. No, no, no. We see the cornhole game between the Charger players. They're just doing things to pass the time. I will say, we got about 2 or 3 minutes of this cornhole game, which felt like a little much of just watching them play cornhole. So phase 2 of camp is here. Players are practicing in helmets, the option of the face shield, which can slide right in the helmet and be removed at any time. This is actual football now, no more walkthroughs. At least we know Jalen Ramsey is confident in himself. He's talking to one of his teammates, and he said, "No, I'm not KD. I'm like LeBron plus Kawhi." Okay. Really? Okay. He thinks pretty highly of himself. Coaches, players, executives, everybody's happy to be going full swing. We are just 3 weeks away from NFL football. That was episode 2 of Hard Knocks HBO. Episodes come out Tuesday night on HBO. You can go back and watch them on demand anytime you want on HBO, HBO Max, any of those services, apps. Let's talk a little oldsmokeclothing.com. We don't really see a lot of places out there with horse racing swag, t-shirts, memorabilia, different options for you. There's not a lot of places that exist. oldsmokeclothing.com is your home for everything. T-shirts, polos, hoodies, long sleeves, zip-ups, hats with horse names, big races, slogans, logos. You can show the horse racing fan in you. Do you love Tiz the Law? Tons of different Tiz the Law options, t-shirts, hats. Maybe you're a Midnight Bisou fan. Go check out the options for Midnight Bisou. oldsmokeclothing.com. And like always, because you listen to That's What G Said, you're going to get a little incentive. If you use the promo code GINO, free shipping. Yes, free shipping on your order with the promo code GINO. oldsmokeclothing.com. Are you a big horse racing fan? Is your brother, your dad, your mom, your friend, your sister, boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, grandma, grandpa, uncle, aunt, anyone that you know that's a fan of racing? check out all the different options here. This would be a very cool, unique, different kind of gift for them, something they wouldn't be expecting, and if they love horse racing, this is something they will rock over and over. Don't forget, promo code GINO gets you free shipping. OldSmokeClothing.com. Horse racing time Friday, Saratoga. Get those past performances out. We're going to be talking August the 21st, and we're going to start in race number 1. We're going to talk some early pick 5. So in the first, I'm thinking to the outside, Silver Token's going to be really tough. I think he's the one to beat. He broke on top last time out when he defeated Advanced Strategy. He was down inside battling. He switched to the 2-path. He came on in between. He just missed. He's probably the one to beat in here. I don't love Advanced Strategy. I just think there's no monsters in here, so he's well placed in this spot. The 3 are Destiny with the blinkers on. Should be sitting close, exiting a live race. He was facing Open Company last time out. Now he's back in with New York Breds. I like our Destiny in here to sit close throughout. I think Striking Causeway, he couldn't get the lead last time. He took back, and then he was just brutal trip on the inside. He got shuffled back. He was really not asked. I thought it was a bad ride, just not persevered with at all, and now you have Irad jumping aboard. So I'd imagine a much more aggressive ride from Irad with Striking Causeway in here. And Joel jumps to Advanced Strategy, who, should be the one that's going to have to come and run them all down late. And so one of the reasons why I have a tough time leaving him out is because I think the other major contenders in here that we're using, the 3 are Destiny, the 4 Striking Causeway, and Silver Token, they could all be forwardly placed. We could see Striking Causeway and our Destiny battling up front, and Silver Token, after showing more speed last time out, if they want to say, hey, this worked well for us, let's show more speed, then if those 3 hook up, Advanced Strategy could come rolling. I do think Silver Token sits the trip in here, though, and our Destiny at a price feels like the one with maybe the most upside if he's like 5-1 or over. So it'll be 3, 4, 6, and 7 in the pick 5 in race number 1. In race number 2, and I'll go through 2 different tickets that I'm going to play a couple different approaches. One horse that I really like is in this second race, and that's to the outside with Lucky Asset. I just thought his stretch out to 1 mile and an eighth was very, very good. It's better than it looks on paper. He got the race at 1 mile and an eighth out of the way now, so he's been this trip, and I think he can sit a little bit closer. I love the outside draw in here. I'm not a fan of Ash I Am, and I think the Angry Man getting back to the dirt is probably the one to beat. And I'll throw the 3 Obsessed in as well. So we'll end up going 6-5-3 in here, but I think Lucky Asset is in a great, great spot. I don't love the rest of this field, and he continues to improve. Get ready for Lucky Asset to run a big one. 6-5-3. And I'm going to single Lucky Asset on one ticket. Other ticket I'll play 3-5-6. We move into race number 3. Won't get too cute in here. Just going to go 4-5-6. Guy's not falling. First time on the turf. Plenty of turf pedigree there. You have Fauci. You have Golden Pal. The Wesley Ward runners. So it'll be 5-4-6 for me in that order in the third. In race number 4, we'll spread out in here. We got New York bred maiden special weight. 6 furlongs the distance. The 3-7-7 with the experience, that could be massive in here. He was close up, but he was hooked wide, and he's the lone runner in this field with experience. I think he's a must-use for that very reason. The 6, the 7, I think are both horses you want to throw on the ticket. Cape Cod Gem, whose dam was 6 for 32, earned $340,000, was stakes placed, and the Lone Sib was a 2-time winner. And the barn has always been about, 10-12% or so with first-time starters. If you go back to the last 127, they were 12% with a $2.27 ROI. It's Gravy's Dam was a multiple winner. I'm going to use that one for a really good first-out barn. Citizen K is a half to La Fuerza, who earned $260,000, was a multiple stakes winner, was 4 for 8, and the Dam of Citizen K won a couple times. So Eagle Orb's obvious. Dam was a 3-time winner, won at 2, earned $145,000, 7 siblings that she's produced, 6 of them have won. 3, 6, 4, 7, 8. And we move to race number 5. And I like the 9 in here a lot. My man Flintstone. I'm going to play one ticket where I single him on the end. My man Flintstone, who's taking the big cutback in here. And he's getting back to 5.5 furlongs on the grass, cutting back from 6.5 furlongs. If he can clear this field on the turnback, he will be very, very tough. He was 2.5 lengths clear in the stretch last time out. I mean, he looked home free. He just got tired late. He's been the runner-up in his last 2 starts as your beaten favorite. He has legitimate excuses for his poor performances. A couple of stakes races. One race where he hurt Art Collector. And another race where he had legitimate trouble. No issue with the grass for him. Only legit trouble in the only race he's ran on the grass. This is a distance thing. My man Flintstone, he's going to try to clear the field. I'm going to single him on one pick 5. The others in here would be Propensity, who he had a good start. He settled in about 6. He was 5 lengths off on the outside. He made a 3 deep move. He opened up 2. It was an easy win for him in his last try. Unprecedented, who broke on top, tracked from 5th, then was back, tracked from about 3rd, and back to 5th, came on late. It wasn't bad. It was kind of a weird ride on Unprecedented. More like it is really lightly raced with some upside. He should get a great trip in here. So I'll use those 3 on another ticket along with my man Flintstone. It's 9, 4, 6, 5 for me in race number 5 at Saratoga. And I didn't love the late part of the card. So for me at Saratoga on Friday, it's just early pick 5 stuff. And let's take a look at a couple of different approaches on the ticket. So in race number 1, I'll go 3, 4, 6, 7. Single the 6 lucky asset with 4, 5, 6. With 3, 4, 6, 7, 8. With 4, 5, 6, 9. Play another ticket where we end up using 3, same 4 to start, 3, 4, 6, 7. And then in race number 2, instead of singling lucky asset, we're going to use Obsessed, Angry Man, and Lucky Asset, 3, 5, and 6, with 4, 5, 6 in the 3rd, with 3, 4, 6, 7, 8 in the 4th, single my man Flintstone, the number 9 in race number 5. That is Friday over at Saratoga. Let's stay Friday horse racing. Let's get you to Del Mar. Get those past performances out Friday, Del Mar, August the 21st. Let's get you to race number 1. And we got to start with Miss Flawless here from the inside. So you look at her last couple, 2 starts back on May the 31st. She was good in a very similar spot. She had a good start. She sat a close-up 3rd, 4th. On the inside, things got tight. She had to shuffle a bit. She was saving ground. She was ready to pounce, but the winner had already built up momentum on the outside and was able to sort of pin this gal in. She's got a lot more tactical speed than she showed in her most recent start. So she was taken back to last on the inside. Then she was in the 2-path. Then she angled to, the center. She wasn't far out of it. She was just facing a little bit better, and she was too far back when she made her move. She was behind a horse named Quick, who came right back to finish 2nd, beating a neck in an $80,000 stakes race. You see Tanahanu, that's a horse who's also defeated Clearly Gone, her rival next door. So, she's a runner-up at the level 2 back. She was claimed by Sorin. She tries tougher, and I didn't love the trip. And now she's back in a really good spot. Miss Flawless, I think you have to use in all of your exotics. The 2 Clearly Gone I'm going to use in some underneath spots. The June 5th race, that was the last time going long on the grass, and you got to go over to the inside. She was 5th, but she was in a tight spot. She was about 3-4 lengths off. She tried to get off the rail. She moved to the 2-path, and she ends up getting caught in between. She was traveling really, really well and just had nowhere to go, and she was never really clear late. It was a sneaky good 3rd. Then she tried the dirt, and you can put a line right through that effort. So I'm going to use her on a couple pick 4 tickets. The 2 Clearly Gone. Have to watch Kitty Hawk last and just see Rispoli sticks, which you like. First off the claim for Palma, who's 6 for the last 33, first off the claim, and 4 for the last 9. but they're only 1 for their last 89 on turf. The Palma Barn. 16 in the money finishes, but 1 for the last 89 on the grass. Last out, Kitty Hawk last was close up from the outside, was hooked about 3-4 deep into the turn. She settled in 4th. She was 3 off. She was 2 deep. She just couldn't go by, or she couldn't go on with Hurley. She's kind of a grindy type. She's going to have to prove it in here. Lexington Grace really likes minor awards. She tried to tuck in from the outside. She got hooked wide. She settled 8th and 9th. She was about 5-6 lengths off. She was 3 deep for over a half mile. And she tried to take back and save ground, but she could only do it just briefly. And she was about 6 or 7 lengths wide when she launched. She really had no other shot, though. I don't think it was Franco's fault. It was just unlucky where she was drawn. She had post 12 that day. She just shouldn't be so wide today. But she's 0 for her last 13. You got 7 in the money finishes, though. Hurley broke well, sat mid-pack, was 6 with about 5 off on the 2 path, got hooked 3, then 4 wide, made a big early move, was just no match for the winner Sugar Reed that day, who ran right by. Hurley was a clear-cut second. There's not a lot of speed in here, so Peach Time, maybe you can make a case for her being forwardly placed, this 9-year-old mare. I just don't think she's even as quick as Quinny is, to be honest. And so, maybe a really nice spot for Peach Time, and if they get aggressive. But she was 21-1 last year at Del Mar in a similar spot, and she didn't run well. She seems like she might be a little overmatched in here. Great spot as far as the way the pace of this race shapes up. And that's what leads you to Quinny, because Quinny has a lot of things going for her here. Look at her last couple races. So go back to May, the May race 2 starts back. She's chasing Lone Speed Ellie Arroway in a strong race that has produced next out winners. She comes back on July the 25th. She broke well. She sat 3rd. She's getting a perfect trip, just a couple lengths off. She moves to the lead. She moves 3 wide and in between horses. And then she is moving in tandem with her rival. I didn't think it was a great ride because she was sort of reacting instead of dictating what she wanted to do. When other horses would move, she would move instead of Quinny making the move. And I think you get someone like Pratt aboard, he's going to be much more aggressive. He's going to be decisive in here. She's going to put 2 starts together. You're going to be more fit. She catches a field without any pace. She might be the quickest. Maybe she lets Peach Time go and sit second. I think from the outside draw, you look at this race thinking you're dropping in class, you're putting 2 together, there's not a lot of speed. Pratt's got to say, it's come and catch me time. I'm going to be either on the lead or I'm going to be right behind Quinny, basically, or right behind Peach Time, basically like I'm on the lead here. So again, not a sexy pick with the 7, but the way I see this race, I'm going to single the 7 on one pick 5 ticket. On another ticket, you can use maybe the 1 and the 7, and then on the different ticket, I'd probably go 1, 2, 4, 5, and 7 as the major contenders in here. In race number 2, the 1 Tiz Hot and Dusty has a chance to steal this race from the inside. I think you look at this lightly raced gelding, he's 3 years old now, and if you toss the turf tries, he won his debut going 5.5 furlongs, came back and then was off the bench for a while, came back at the beginning, came back this year, in his first start of this year, he tried the grass, put a line right through it. Came right back at Los Al on June the 28th. He drew the rail. It was a fine start. He settled inside. He was 4th. He was a couple lengths off. He waited inside nicely for room, got an opening, moved through, tried really hard. I think he's just going to be better on the lead. And he's not going to be able to sit and pass these horses going 6.5 furlongs. He won't be as fit as some of the others late. His chance of winning this race is, hey, I'm getting aggressive. I drew the rail. I'm going to send hard. That's got to be the game plan here. Tiz Hot and Dusty. Use him in all your exotics. You know, you could do worse for a big long shot than Great Ulysses, who's a total wild card. He won his debut going a mile at Indy. He was a fine 4th at Keeneland after that in an allowance race behind South Bend. Then he tries Calbred stakes races, and he's sent to the bench after. His 2 races back have not been great, but now it's going to be second start off the long layoff, second time for O'Neill. He's going back to dirt. He's coming out of a race that's produced a next out winner. You can make a case for this horse at a price. Natural History has legit excuses for some of his poor performances early on in his career. He was in tougher. He tried turf, races that were followed by layoffs. Last out, he faced rival Hidden Promise at Churchill. He was behind Hidden Promise, but he was in tight. He had to steady, and he had to back out of a spot, and then he got stuck down on the inside, 5 lengths off. He had nowhere to go. He's traveling really, really well. He moved to the rail, but he didn't have a very nice opening, and by that point, the top 2 had already snuck away. Now he's a first-time gelding, and he's going to go first off the claim for Bob Hess Jr. He's going to go third off the layoff. This is going to be a great spot for Natural History. He's a horse I think you have to use in all of your exotics. I'm not leaving him off any tickets. Hidden Promise, you know what? He was getting a perfect trip when he outfinished Natural History at Churchill a couple back. No excuses that day. He should have won. Maybe 7 furlongs is too far. Maybe even 6.5 is. He might be best at 6. He wouldn't be a massive surprise. I just like others more in here. I'd even prefer a horse like Promise Nothing, who was forwardly placed 3 deep in his last start. He took back to 4th, and then he loomed up to within a length and a half before fading. He just couldn't go on that day with Zimba Warrior, and the slight cutback should help. Shooting Money should be forwardly placed. He doesn't seem too far behind the others in overall talent, but is 6.5 where he's at his best? I just don't think so. He was in chase mode at the top of the lane a couple starts back, going 5.5, and he sort of fell into 3rd. He tried hard. It looks like the one to beat is Drippin' Sauce, who he was a debut winner, and came back and he looked a really tough field in his second start against Stakes Company. Came back in career start number 3 and wins, and then tried Stakes Company again. He has a couple legitimate excuses. He's one horse, same type of thing. You go through his career, you can cross out a couple races, and then things start to look much better. He's proven at Del Mar. You love this cutback for him. He's going to sit close. He's going to go 3rd off the very long layoff. He's the horse to beat for me. Eustace on the outside. I like the turn back. But he's been here 3 times at Del Mar. He's run 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. He was favored at a maiden 32 last year. It's just, situation of like others more. So for me, it's 1, 3, 7 in all of the exotics here, with Tis Hot and Dusty the one to bet, perhaps, based on what his price is. 5 to 1 or so would be great. And so I'm 1, 3, 7, 2, 5. 1, 3, 7, 2, 5 on a couple others. We move to race number 3. I'm taking a lot of time today. I really liked the Friday card, though. So, I try to go through some of the other horses, even if they're not necessarily horses I'm betting. So maybe we can lead you to something underneath in some of your exotics, or maybe lead you to an angle or something to use for next time. We get to the 3rd race, and just on paper, there is not a lot of speed, right? I have to use Calixman. He's won going a mile on the turf. He was 3rd in the Grade 3 La Jolla. He going a mile in a 16th. It's easy to excuse his last 2 starts. One of them was in August of 2019, and then he hadn't raced between August and July. He hooks a small field. There's no other speed. He should be a few lengths clear early. He's the one to catch. 2nd off the long layoff. He'll take him as far as he can. I'm going to use him in Big Score in all the exotics. Big Score and Murad Khan are coming out of the same race, and I have more reason to think Big Score takes a step forward than I do Murad Khan. Big Score was taken back to 8th. He was 2 deep. He was 7 off. He was chasing, a race. He was chasing in a race where the top 2 finishers were 3rd and 1st throughout. So not a lot of passing. He ends up angling out widest of all, and he just didn't have a ton of punch. He'll be much sharper. 2nd off the long layoff. Pratt jumps back aboard. Big Score to me, you got to use along with the 4 Calixman. And if you want to go a little deeper, it would be Builder, who's looking for his 3rd in a row. He might not be as good as some of these, but let's say Calixman's loose on the lead, and Builder's sitting at like 2 lengths behind in second. And then Murad Khan, Big Score, and Jaskin are kind of in their own race towards the back of the pack. And maybe Calixman gets tired and Builder just falls into it. I could see that happening. I don't really have any knocks on Jaskin. I just kind of see him as a question mark. Second time older, second off the long layoff. He had a slow start. He was dead last. He was 10 off. He moved into it, but he was in some traffic. I mean, he could win. I just feel like there's more upside with Big Score in here. So, I wouldn't talk you off him, but I'm going to go 3-4-1, 4-3-1 with Calixman on top as an opportunity to try to steal this race. In race number 4, 6 furlongs, Calbred Maidens 50s. Wave by from the inside, has not raced since April of 2019. Now faces tougher from the rail for a barn that hasn't started many lately. You see a few of these barns in here that just haven't had a lot of winners lately. Alexis Barba, really good barn, has had some nice horses through the years, but just 2 for 34 over the last 5 years. You look at the Neff barn with Evening Sonnet, they're just 2 for 32 over the last 5 years. You look at the Gutierrez barn, who is not winning a ton. They're 0 for their last 32. So, barns that haven't been winning a whole ton. The 2 Jan can for Pipey, this gal can improve. It's easy to excuse her debut versus better, and it was back in August at Del Mar, back in August of 2019. She was basically off for a year. She comes back. It was a slowish start. She was 10th of 11. She was 8 off. She ends up moving in between horses, then angles outside, then starts to travel really well late. Was a fine 4th. Now it's going to go second start off the bench. She improves it all. She's right there. I'm going to use Jan Can and some exotics. Almost a year layoff for Evening Sonnet. Just got to watch this one. Faded Love is a first-time starter for a barn who's been struggling at the meet. The Dam did win her second start in a maiden 50 at Santa Anita. She was pretty quick. 2 sibs to race so far for Faded Love, and they've both been winners. Keep it classy. Just has to show a little bit more. Get him Tiger. Drops in class. She's got to be a use in most exotics for me. 2 back, she drew the rail sprinting against maiden special weight Calbreds. She's traveling really well, but she was tucked inside with nowhere to go. So she moves to the 2 path. She still has to wait. The top of the lane, she gets room, but the winner was already able to sneak away. And then last time out, she gets bumped around at the start. She gets steadied out of a tight spot. She just has a really tough first furlong going long on the grass. Really easy to put a line right through that race. She's our arch. We'll add the blinkers for Gutierrez. They're going to drop in class, and I don't really know if she's any good. She's faced better in a few starts, and she's been 6th, 5th, and 8th. You can excuse the grass race and look at the 2 races on the dirt. The July 5th race, she broke slow. She was outrun. She broke slow and outward. She was okay from the back of the pack when she started to close. She just missed 4th. It was non-threatening. Little Miss Ellie's probably the one to beat in here. She had a fine start. She was hooked wide on the outside. She was outrun a little bit. She was about 10th, 8 off. She was 4 wide. She makes a big outside move. 4 wide at the top of the lane and really strong late for Little Miss Ellie. We'll be using her in all exotics. Olay Silva reportedly training pretty well, and Flavian Pratt jumps aboard after a slow start from the rail. She got stuck mid-pack. And then she got shuffled back to 8th with nowhere to go. And when she got room, she tried to angle off the rail. It was an okay effort. She was not far behind Jan. I think she's another one that you can probably use. But my top selection is going to be Magnolia's Hope. This 5-year-old mare has had some issues. She's only raced 5 times, but she's done her best work in her last 2 starts for the new barn, for Wong. On June the 28th, it's a good start. She settles in 3rd, 4th. She's a couple lengths off. She ends up moving up to 3rd. She's 3 deep. She makes a bid before the top of the lane. She tries really hard down the center of the track, but she's just second best. And it wasn't surprising. She needed the race. She hadn't raced in almost 14 months. She comes back on July the 26th. She steps up against Calbred Maiden Special Weights. Slow start. She's rushed up onto heels. Then she gets shuffled. She takes back. She angles around 5 wide. It was just a bad ride. She's at a 6-path down the center of the racetrack. Now she's going to go third off the long layoff. She's drawn to the outside. There's not a ton of other speed in here. She's going to drop back in with Calbred Maiden Claimers. And, she's drawn well to just send hard. If somebody else goes, then maybe she sits. But I think the outside draw for Magnolia's Hope, the number 10, I'm going to make a win wager on the Magnolia's Hope. I'm going to single her in one of the pick 5 tickets that we play. She's anything around 4-1 or so. I think you must use her in all of your exotics win wager. 10-8, 6-2-9. 10-8, 6-2-9 in race number 4. We get to the 5th race, Maiden Special Weights Calbred's Mile on the turf course here. The one Scooby, a slow start, took a bit to get going, was 3 deep at the back of the pack, was 6 off, made a nice 4 wide sustained late rally, and the stride looked very nice late. Now you're going to stretch out, you're going to try turf, you get Pratt to stick, plenty to like. Warren's Candyman, the Deuce, I love this mare. Warren's Veneta. The dam of this one was an 8-time winner. She was a multiple graded stakes winner. She was a grade 1 winner. She won $932,000. She won on dirt, turf, synthetic, and on a wet racetrack. She did all of her best work going long. In the lone sibling Warren Showtime, we're going to see in the Oaks on Saturday. She's 5 for 11, 4 for 7 on the grass, multiple stakes winner, graded stakes placed. Capable first out barn. I just think this it's not easy going long first time out. I'll throw her in 1 or 2 spots and maybe underneath. Teton Valley's Dam won going long on the turf. In her last start, she was asked for speed. He was asked for speed. He broke in, and he broke pretty fast. And he was on the lead at the top of this before the top of the stretch, but he faded. He's gonna have to prove he can go long, but he should be forwardly placed throughout, and the grass shouldn't be a problem for Teton Valley. Ingest takes the blinkers off. He flew out of the gate, opened up length and a half, and then was able to slow it down. I didn't really like the ride on him. He kind of let Dynamite come right up on the outside, and then he was forced to try to battle back. He's quick. He can take the blinkers off. Should be in the mix. The horses I'm kind of heavily interested in here are Big Fish, Big Talker, and Scooby. So Big Fish is going to try the grass for the first time. He's raced twice, sprinting on the dirt. Now he's going to stretch out. His Dam won on the grass. In his last start, he moved up from the outside. He was 4 lengths off. He just couldn't get to the pace setter and the winner that day. Good with People, who was an easy winner. And then you have Big Talker, whose Dam was 3 for 17, won twice on the grass, produced 4 siblings, all turf winners. They have combined for $1.4 million. There are 2 that are graded stakes winners. He just didn't fire. It was his debut. It was a slow start. He was dead last. He was 7 off. He was just never in it. But he's got the blood. He's got the pedigree there to improve. Let's go 6-1-9-2-3. Rey Mysterio fans, 6-1-9. 6-1-9-2-3. So the early pick 5s at Del Mar, I'm going to have a couple different approaches in here. So I'm going to play one ticket where I single Queenie right off the bat. It's going to be 7 with 1, 2, 3, 5, 7, with 1, 3, 4, with 2, 6, 8, 9, 10, with 1, 2, 3, 6, 9. I can single, really use everybody I like in races 2 through 5. Play another ticket where I come back and go 1, 7, with 1, 2, 3, 5, 7, with 3, 4, with 6, 8, 10, with 1, 2, 3, 6, 9. It's the one where you get to use the horses you like the most in each race. You don't even have to have a single in there. And then, maybe one ticket where you go something like all with 1, 3, 7, with 3, 4, with a single of the 10, with 1, 2, 3, 6, 9. So in the early pick 5, the singles I'd be looking at would be in race number 1, the 7 Queenie, and in race number 4, the number 10, Magnolia's Hope, who I think from the outside has an opportunity to clear there, and a horse who I like. And sometimes you want to get the separator single too. You don't want a chalky single that maybe everybody else has. Don't forget about Tiz Hot and Dusty. Make sure to use that one in race number 2 with that good speed from the inside, and throw in Calyx Man in race number 3 with an opportunity to steal that race in that small field. Let's get you to race number 6 here. I'm just going to use 2 in some of the exotics. I'll start with the 7 King Parker, whose last race, he had a fine start. He settled 4th on the inside. He was about 5 lengths off. He looms up 3 deep, and he got up to 2nd before, getting a little bit tired, and he just ends up missing 3rd. That's going 6.5 furlongs. Now you're going to cut back to 6 furlongs, and Flavian Pratt jumps aboard. This horse is going to get bet. Even if he gets bet in half, and he's 6-7 to 1, that's fine. The 11, I think, is the one to beat, Fire When Ready, who adds the blinkers. You look at his last couple starts. So he raced for 12.5 2 starts back, and it was a good 3rd. And then last time out, he was 4th on the inside. He was tucked in. He was traveling really well, but he was in tight. He was behind horses. And against 16 claimers, he doesn't finish well. Now he's going to go 3rd off the bench. Second time back in the Hess Jr. barn. He drops. He cuts back. He adds the blinkers. Fire When Ready looks ready. 7-11 in race number 6. We move to the 7th race. Maiden 20s in here. And let's go to the 9. World Affairs for the top selection. He hadn't raced between May and July. He came and he dropped in class for the first time to maiden 20s. It was a fine start. He was 4 deep. He was in the second flight going into the turn. He was 3 deep in between horses. He was 4th. He was a couple lengths off. It was grindy, but he just missed 2nd, and he outfinished Hudson River Road, and that was his first start in a few months, and that was only his 2nd start since March of 2019. He has the right to just continue to get better, lightly raced with upside. Street Behavior, blinkers coming off. Now in the Mulhall barn, looks like a major pace factor from the outside, stretching out from 5.5 furlongs to a mile. Legit sprint speed there. And the 3, Hudson River Park, didn't break well, but he loomed up 4 wide, and he was dropping in class. That was the first time against maiden claimers. Now O'Neill claims him, brings him right back, stretches back out from 6.5 to a mile. Obvious contender. So it's 9-10-3. After those, I have Kazansky, who broke well. He was 3 deep going into the turn. He settled in 2nd. He was about a length off. He made a 2-path move at the top of the lane and then faltered. He could be the quickest. Or maybe he's sitting 2nd or 3rd if, Street Behavior ends up going from the outside. But he's going to be forwardly placed in here. And the 1, Sharp Speaker, who was dead last. He was 10 plus off. He came running late. He wasn't far behind Hudson River Park. He just has to continue to progress. For this barn, whereas Hudson River Park, we can kind of project that he will improve a little for O'Neill first off the claim. 9-10-3 4 1. I have 9-10-3 on that top tier in race number 7. We move to race number 8 in here. Won't spend as much time on this race because I'll be spreading out a little bit, but I will go to the 8, Plum Wild. There is just not a ton of true horses who want to take back and close. I think there's 3 or 4 of them, and Plum Wild feels like she's going to get a great trip. Her last start, it wasn't a bad beginning. She was a couple lengths off on the inside, but then she got caught in between. She shuffled back inside. She was back to last. She ends up moving in between horses, but she's in traffic. She couldn't end up hitting a hole, and there wasn't a ton of passing late. It's a better than looks race on paper, Plum Wild last time out. And you look at this race, you've got, Legs Galore, who's got big speed. Habanero is going to be close. Hotitude's really quick. And Liberalism's really quick. There's going to be speed going 5 furlongs, you could imagine. Plum Wild could get a great off-the-pace trip in here, using the 8 Plum Wild and all exotics, along with the 9 Smiling Annie, who settled in 3rd, but got shuffled back in between horses, lost a few lengths and momentum, angled outside, and just missed 2nd. She should be right there. We'll use the 8-9 everywhere, along with the 4. Maybe Legs Galore is just the speed of the speed. She was so impressive in her turf debut last time out. Don't forget about the 10, Queens, Becca, and Jane. What's wrong with the trip that she sat 2 back when sprinting? An easy excuse when she went a mile last time out, going long. Maybe just didn't want to go that far. 8, 9, 4, 10, and then the 6, Hautitude. Maybe a wild card here. She's another who is just, she can flat fly. And maybe she's just quicker than most in here. So let's use her just in case too in some other exotics. It's 8, 9, 4, 10, 6 there in race number 8 at Del Mar. As we move to race number 9, the Rancho Bernardo. The 2 Into Chocolate has the opportunity to sit a great trip. Not too far off the lead in here. She's run well at Del Mar before, and she's going to go second off the short break. So Into Chocolate we'll use in all exotics. I'll take a shot against Gingham from the rail. I think she may not get the most beneficial trip in here. So we'll use the 2, the 5 sneaking out. Feels like the one to beat. Amuse, I like the fact that Mandela is putting her back in this spot. She didn't run well on the grass last time out. It was like a head scratcher why she ran so poor. But if she replicates the effort 2 starts back, she shouldn't be too far out of this race, and I've always been a fan of hers. And then we look at the 8, Unique Factor, who just tried a much tougher group against the Grade 1 Madison Company last time out at Keeneland. 2, 5, 6, 8 in race number 9 with Into Chocolate, the top selection there. In race number 10, I like the 4, Eddie's Sister. I'm going to have 4-1 on all exotics and then 4-1-6 on a couple others. So Rocky Causeway is the horse to beat. In his last start, he drew post 12. He broke out. He was 3 deep going into the turn, and then in the second flight, he ended up settling 4th. He was a couple lengths off. He angled out 4 deep. Good second. Get a better trip, saving ground from the inside. She might have to run down Eddie's Sister, who has sprinted twice and is now going to stretch out. She didn't race between November and July, so she needed the start last out. Her dam was a multiple winner on the grass. She's going to go second start off the layoff, stretching out, 3 turf winning sibs. They were a combined 12 for 23 and earned $585,000 on the grass. She's a half 2 Surcat Sally, multiple graded stakes winner who was 5 for 6 on the turf. Eddie's Sister, the 1-2 catch in here. Rose's Crystal, who took up at the start, was back to last, was bumped around, was steadied into the turn, and was late on the scene. She could improve with that race under her belt now. And I don't really love anybody else in here. It's 4-1-6 in race number 10 at Del Mar. So a couple looks at a pick 5. We'll just take this one look at the pick 5 maybe. In race number 6, let's go 7-11 with 3, 9, 10, with 4, 6, 8, 9, 10, with 2, 5, 6, 8, with 1, 4, 6. Always put them in order so that way, you know, if I ever have to shorten up, you know, who I would cut and how I would place them. So Friday at Del Mar, there's your Friday Del Mar card. Let's talk about it as far as a Stable Duel is concerned. So you hear me talking about Stable Duel with the daily horse racing contest, and Stable Duel is back with a big Friday. Games available at Ellis Park for $5. You can get in the Ellis Park contest. At Monmouth Park, you can get in a contest for $10. Or at Del Mar, you can play in a contest that pays out only the top 10 players. It's a $25 entry. Or you can play in just the regular Del Mar Friday contest for a $10 entry. Remember, this is building your lineup based on a salary cap. You have a $50,000 salary cap, and you have to put together a lineup of 10 horses throughout the card, and horses are based, their prices are based on their morning line. So horses who are the big morning line favorites are going to cost you more. You can't pick the favorite in every race. One thing you're trying to do here is identify which races do you feel like these horses are going to get bet down. Obviously, you're trying to pick winners, right? You want to finish in the top 5. You want your horses to pick up points. But for me, when I'm looking at the races, who's going to get bet down? Because that's where you get your value. If a horse is 6-1 on the morning line, but they end up going off at 5-2, that's nice because you paid for a 6-1 shot, but you've got a 5-1, you've got a 5-2 shot. That's what you want. So let's get to race number 1. I'm okay with paying up in the first because I like Quinny at 8,500. I would be fine with Miss Flawless at 8,000, but I would prefer a Quinny. If you don't want to spend up that much early, maybe Lexington Grace at 7,000. What's nice about this contest is she picks up pieces. So even if she's second or third, she does that consistently. And maybe you don't want to spend a whole lot early, and that would be the 2 Clearly Gone. It would only cost you $500. I'm fine with that one. In the second, I'm going to go to the Speed of Tis Hot and Dusty at 3,000 from the inside, the 3 Natural History at 7,000, or the 7 Drip and Sauce at 8,500. If I'm spending up, it would be for one of them. In the third, the number 4 Calyx Men only costs you $750, and in a small field like this, with an opportunity to get out front and steal the race, this could be the type of race that separates you if you could use Calyx Men at only $750. And if you want to spend up, it would be big score at $9,400. But look at the difference there. If we can get away with getting Calyx Men even just to run second at $750, you give yourself so much more leverage and flexibility the rest of the way through. In the fourth race, I like Magnolia's Hope to try to go gate to wire from the outside at 5,000. That's the number 10. The 8 Little Miss Ellie, if you want to spend up at 8,000. Get 'em Tiger at 6,000. Or Jan Can, the 2, if you don't feel like spending as much. In the fifth race, I would be fine spending up here with either Big Fish or Scooby, 7,500 or 8,000 for either one of them. Big Talker, if you want to spend less, would only cost you $750. An upside play there. In the sixth race, I'm going to play King Parker, the 7, mainly because I think with Pratt, this horse is training well, he's cutting back. This isn't the strongest race in the world. I just think he's going to be a much shorter price than he was on the morning line. So I'll use the 7 everywhere at 500 only, and Fire When Ready at 6,500. I'll probably play one lineup where I include him here. In the 7th, the number 9 World Affairs, I'll spend up there at 8,000. I'd prefer World Affairs over Hudson River Park because World Affairs is going to be sitting closer. Maybe you go to Street Behavior, the number 10, who would cost you $5,000. You think Street Behavior has a shot to get loose up front. In the 8th, I'm going to go with the 8 Plum Wild, would only cost you $750 here. The 9 Smiling Annie at $6,500 feels like she's going to get a good trip in this race. The number 4 Legs Galore at $7,500 would be the other one. In the 9th, Into Chocolate would only cost you $300. I think she's going to get a nice trip, not too far out of it. Loom Up, she's run well at Del Mar before. The 1 to beat is sneaking out at $9,400. Amuse at $6,000, but, there are some question marks with Amuse. And then to close things out, let's go with the Speed of Eddie's Sister at $3,000, the number 4. The number 1 would be my spend-up horse at $9,000 if you want to make sure you have you feel a little more confident with who you're going to have late. And then Rose's Crystal at $5,000. That's the number 6. That would be my other look in race number 10 on Friday at Del Mar. Friday Stable Duel, Del Mar. You can play at Ellis for 5, Monmouth for 10, Del Mar for 10 or for 25. If you have any questions about Stable Duel, how to build your lineup, what is Stable Duel, any stuff at all like that, you've checked it out, you couldn't really figure it out, please let me know. I would love to help. One of the sponsors of That's What G Said podcast is Cindy Carava, full-service realtor, and I am here over in Glendora at Coldwell Banker with Cindy Carava. Cindy, how was 2019 for you? Tell us a little bit about what kind of stuff you were working on.
Hi, Gino. Thanks for having me. 2019 was just really great. I had a great year selling homes all the way from Altadena, Arcadia, Monrovia, out to Upland and Ontario just recently. The market has been really good. We're looking forward to 2020 with an increase in home prices about 5.8% this year, opposed to last year where it was a little softer. We saw more like homes averaging about 3.5% in increase in value. It's also looking great for buyers. The interest rates right now are going to be staying under 4%. So if you've been on the fence about thinking about buying a home, now is the time to do so with interest rates still staying low.
And you offer more services than just the buying, selling, and leasing homes. Tell us about some of the other services that you offer and what a full-service realtor really is.
So you're right, Gino. Besides me being a full-service realtor of finding properties for my clients to buy or selling their homes or finding rentals for them, I also have a plethora of resources like handyman, contractors, electricians, plumbers. I even, if like I said, if you're thinking about getting a home loan, I actually work with 2 great lenders that I can recommend to anybody.
And you're all over the internet, social media, websites. Let us know some of the places where we can find you. I know I've seen some reviews on Yelp and on Zillow. Everyone always has positive things to say. Everybody hears me raving about you all the time. But where can everyone else find out information about you or contact?
Thank you, Gino. Yeah, I am on Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn. And you can contact me on my website, which is www.cindycarava.com, or my email, which is cindyc.realtor@gmail.com, or feel free to call or text me on my cell phone, which is 626-394-6400.
Cindy is awesome. She's one of the kindest and most genuine people I've ever met. I promise you, you will enjoy every minute you interact with her. So thank you very much, Cindy. Appreciate all of your support from That's What G Said podcast.
Thank you, Gino. Have a great day, everyone.
Let's get you over to Saturday racing, and let's get to Saratoga. Going to have 4 plays throughout the Saratoga Saturday card. Again, like I said, what's nice about the show here is I'm not covering any particular sequence all the time. I'm covering the races as how am I playing the races. When I look at Saratoga, Del Mar, if it's Woodbine or wherever I'm looking for the weekend, what am I going to play? I don't feel like I have to play every pick 4 or every pick 5 because that's not real life. I know a lot of us always want to play the pick 4s or pick 5s, but there's plenty of opportunities. Don't feel like you have to play everyone. You can sit down. If you don't like a sequence, play a horse to win, an exacta, or try. Don't feel forced. If you only like 2 races in the sequence, don't play a pick 5. Don't play a pick 4. I'm not going to do that on Saturday because I don't really love either of the sequences put together. Let's go through the races that I like. So let's go to race number 5. Get your past performances out. Saratoga. We're talking Saratoga Saturday. We are talking about August the 22nd. And 5th race, the number 7 Snows Island. First time starter. He's a 2-year-old son of Animal Kingdom. And the damn Tuda Paesi is a graded stakes winner going long on the grass. Pop's Animal Kingdom could have run on anything. This is the barn that's capable with first-timers. They just won with a first-timer sprinting on the turf at Saratoga, and they were 3rd with a first-timer going long on the turf at Saratoga at 30-1. This guy is beautifully bred. Throw in Snows Island in all of your exotics. Now, you don't want him at less than about 5-1 in a wide-open race, but anything around 5-1, he feels like a nice, logical contender in here. Well, let's move to race number 7. And I'm going to go to the deuce in here, plot the dots. So, in his last start, he tried the turf for the first time. He was bumped around at the start. He got off the rail. He was in the 2-path. He was 4th, a couple lengths off, and he was chasing really slow fractions. He made an early wide move up to press in the 3-path. I didn't really love the ride. 4-wide bit at the top of the lane where the winner saved all the ground. Yeah, so the second time on the turf, there's a lot more upside. Let's hope we get a little better trip. I think sitting just a couple lengths off of it in here and maybe getting a jump on some of the deeper closers. That's the 2. Plot the dots. Anything around 4-1 will make a win wager. In race number 8, let's go to the number 5, Winston's Chance. So, Winston is showing a little more speed in his last couple starts since Carmouche jumped aboard. But he's very versatile when you look at his running style throughout his career. And even in his last couple, he's not like he's on the lead or very, very fast. He's just nicely sitting off the pace, right behind in striking range. Because he showed more tactical speed, I think he really fits well in here. He should be able to sit 3rd or 4th. He likes Saratoga. He likes this trip. And he's got enough positional speed to put himself in a good spot. But if they're going a little too quick, he can take back. Make sure to throw the 5, Winston's chance into all of your exotics. Make a win wager if he's anything around 4-1. And then we get to the stakes. And I mean, honestly, on paper, where's the speed? Raging Bull's going to take back and make one run. Casa Creed, more likely a presser. Emis is going to be, coming from off the pace, a little more like tracking the pace. God Stormy is probably going to be really close, and that means Holiday is going to be on the lead. And what I like, you heard from the connections, Todd Pletcher was quoted in a DRF article talking about how he asked to take back because there weren't a lot of horses winning on the Saratoga front end on the turf course there. And, of course, you take back, and then some like it Hot Brown ends up going gate to wire. They chose to sit off. Even though Holiday broke well, he tracked in second. He was a couple lengths off. He tried to go after the leader. He actually loomed up almost on even terms, but then some like it Hot Brown kicked clear. I'm expecting they get more aggressive with the fact they said that. They came out and said they're going to get a little more aggressive. So Holiday, to me, is the one to catch and the one they'll all have to beat at Saratoga on Saturday. So those are your plays for Saratoga on Saturday. In the fifth race, the number 7, anything around 5-1. In the 7th, the number 2, Plot the Dots, anything around 4-1. In the 8th race, the number 5, Winston's Chance, anything around 4-1. And in the 9th race, the number 5, Holiday, anything around 3-1. That is Saratoga Saturday. Let's go from Saratoga on Saturday to Del Mar on Saturday. And it's Pacific Classic Saturday at Del Mar. Not a big field, but we will get to see Maximum Security making another start, and we'll see if he's going to be able to keep progressing for the Baffert barn. He's obviously a polarizing horse with everything that's happened and with everything that's gone on with Baffert in the last year too. Kind of a polarizing marriage now with Maximum Security and with Baffert. We'll get to that race in just a bit. Let's start in race number 1. These are maiden specials, 2-year-olds, 5.5 furlongs. These are fillies, and the two Princess Noor, the dam was a graded stakes winner on the turf. They paid $1.35 million for this one, and she's debuting for Baffert. She looks to have some ability. I like the other Baffert here. You say the other Baffert, Flash Magic, who she could very well go favored. Her dam, Glinda the Good, was 4 for 11. She earned $226,000. She was a multiple stakes winner. She was graded stakes place, and Glinda has produced 3 foals to race. One of them was Good Magic. All 3 of them have been multiple winners. Good Magic is 3 for 9, $2.9 million in earnings. Won the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, won the Bluegrass, was second in the Derby, won the Haskell. Flash Magic. Pratt jumping aboard, some quick works over the racetrack, a nice strong pedigree, and win early pedigree too. Precocious Good Magic. Flash Magic, I prefer. And I'm going to play a pick 5 or a single Flash Magic right off the bat. In race number 2, I would just use 2 and 3. Looks like Square Peggy's got some pace. Little Grayson's quick, but she can sit. She's pretty versatile, and she looks like she's the one to beat, trying to come right back at the same spot. Loud Music has some pace. Wandering Patrol, coming off a long layoff, has some speed. Can't imagine she's too far out of it. And a Fantastic has some speed. Unchain Her Heart has some speed. I think the race sets up very well for Noor Khan, the number 3. If we get anything around 7-2, I'll make a win wager there. Let's use the 2 and the 3 in our pick 5, and maybe a win wager on Noor Khan based on price. We move to race number 3, and this is the Green Flash 5 furlong turf sprint here. The 7 could end up being a really nice claim for Sadler. Chaos Theory, who, you could see he wasn't far out of it against graded stakes company turf sprinting. And he was claimed for 62.5, but now he's stepped up and he's protected in a great spot. He's got a couple really quick works for Sadler, including one over this Del Mar turf course. And when you see the way this race could shape up, you have to imagine Toro Say is really quick. He's going to be flashing some speed. Thanks Mr. Edison's going to be flashing some speed. Mike's Tiz Now from the outside is going to go. So Chaos Theory should get enough pace to run out in here. If he doesn't, it may be because Mike's Tisnow on the outside just cleared the field and flew. I mean, he can fly, but will he be fit enough? He raced in June, and he won, And prior to that, he hadn't raced since June of 2019. It was almost an exact year layoff. He won the Albany Stakes back-to-back. Will he be ready in a tougher spot against some legitimate turf sprinters? He should get, an opportunity to clear that field. The 3 Baja Sur, third off the bench. He should be pressing. He wasn't too far behind Mike's Tiz now. With Sparky Veal down on the inside, Baja Sur could be in the perfect spot, sitting just behind if Mike's Tiz now falters. But the 7 to me is the one to beat. Chaos Theory, I'm going to have 7, 8, 3 in that order in race number 3 at Del Mar. We go to another graded stakes race. It is the Torrey Pines in race number 4, and they'll be traveling a mile in here. You got a couple Baffords to the outside who you'd expect to be showing some speed, Marinith and then Provocation, and I don't really like either one of them. They wouldn't be a shock, but they would have to improve off of their recent races. I think Secret Keeper is going to be forwardly placed and probably pretty close to the both of them early on. She broke well. She sat just off the speeds. She was 3 deep and in between, and she was best over over Marinith and Provocation. She does have to stretch out in here and face a little bit tougher group because Secret Keeper is going to have to deal with a nice horse right next door in Harvest Moon, who she got floated wide going into the turn. She was back to 5th. She was about 4 lengths off. She was in the clear, and Pratt just kept her so wide. I mean, he rode her so confident. He just wanted to make sure she didn't get stopped and that she was in the clear throughout, and she crushed. She's the horse to beat in here. I like Aurelia Garland, though. I'm going to make the 5 my top selection. She comes in from Prairie Meadows, and she was second in the Iowa Oaks behind Flat Out Speed, who came back to win right out of that race. She's 6 for 7, and she's really quick. Aurelia Garland was going a mile and a 16th. She was 3 deep. She was in between horses. She was just off. She was no match for the winner. She couldn't get by, but she did battle back and finish second. I love this turn back in distance. You see a horse named Four Graces, a couple starts back. That's a really nice 3-year-old filly who's an excellent sprinter. Aurelia Garland has not done much wrong in her career like this turn back. I don't think at a mile, I think Harvest Moon is the best horse in this group. I could see Secret Keeper getting a nice trip. And I think at this trip distance with this group, Aurelia Garland has a major shot at anything around 7-2. Let's make a win wager on her. Even shorter, like 3-1 or so, feels fair. The 5th race, I'm going to play one ticket where I just go all. There are a couple horses in here that I don't know if they want to win. Warpath, Lane Way, Absolute Unit stretching out to a mile. We've seen these horses frazzled. I don't know how much they want to win. Divine Armor is going to try the grass for the first time. So I'm going to play one pick 5 where I just go all. I'll play another ticket where we end up going 4, 5, 8, 10, 12, 6. The 4 Camaraderie, I would be surprised if he's close to that high of a price. In his U.S. debut, after finishing second in his career debut over in Ireland, he ends up settling 4th, 5th. He's about 3 lengths off. He's in the 2 path. He makes a 3 wide early bid, but the winner had already snuck away up front, and he was not bad that day in a big field. It was his first start since January. Every right to step forward, second time for Sadler. Make sure Camaraderie is on your tickets. So the early pick 5 at Del Mar for Saturday. Single to 7, with 2-3, with 3-7-8, with 2-3-5, with all. Play another ticket where I come back and go 1-2-6-7, with 2-3, with 7-8, with 2-3-5, with 4-5-6-8-10-12. Make sure to use the 7 Flash Magic in the first. In the second race, I'll just be using 2 and 3, Newer Con and Little Grazen. In the third race, don't forget about the 7 Chaos Theory. Anything around 5-2 is fair. And in the fourth, the 5 Aurelia Garland. If we can get around 3-1 or so, that feels fair. We move to the later part of the Del Mar Saturday card. Let's get you to The sixth race, I'm not going to talk a whole lot about it. If you're playing like a pick six or something, I would just single Fratelli, who feels like this is the win spot for them. They claimed for 20, took a shot against a better a couple different times. Now you're back in for 16. You're dropping in class. I just think Fratelli is set up nicely for a victory, but you're probably not going to get a great price, maybe more of an exotics horse to single. Probably not going to get a great price on the winner in the seventh race. It does look like United is the one to beat on paper in the Del Mar handicap. So in late exotics, this does start your late pick five. Yeah, I'll play one where I just single United, who is, to me, the no doubt class of this field. I will throw Combatant in on one ticket at just a total wild card. We'll also include Proud Pedro, who's in nice form, has won 2 of the last 3. And we'll flap in a Originaire on another ticket. So it'll be 1 singled and then 1, 3, 6, and 10 on another. In race number 8 at Del Mar, we're going to go to the number 4, take the 101. There's just not a ton of speed in here. There's a lot of pressers, a lot of horses who are going to be just off the pace, but they don't really want to be on the lead. And take the 101 is going to get away from Galilean, and we know what he's going to do. There's lots of those pressers, but they could end up taking back a little bit. He sneaks away. He had a solid win against Open Company 3 starts back. He likes Del Mar. Take the 101, trying to steal this race up front. The number 5, El Tigre Terrible. He had a legitimate trouble in the Oceanside a couple starts back. And then other than that, what has he done wrong? Not a whole lot. He's upcoming 3-year-old, is a little low on numbers and figures, but he likes Del Mar. He should have no problem stretching out to a mile. He was visually extremely impressive in his last start. The number 3, Botanico, probably the measuring stick horse and the one to beat in here. He should be sitting close throughout, and they'll have to get by him. And then the number 6 would be the other one if you want to go a little deeper. I mean, Extra Hope is very logical, obvious. It's just he hasn't raced since November. Is he going to be his best off the bench? He is, multiple graded stakes placed. And he's hard to leave out. You just might be able to beat him here. He could be a little short in this spot. 4, 5, 3, 6 will make the 4. Take the 101, our top selection. In race number 9, it is the Del Mar Oaks. I think this is a race to spread out a little bit. Let's talk about some of the horses we will include. I mean, what's wrong with Carpe Venum from the rail? She saved all the ground on the inside. She waited. She angled out. She got a nice opening, and she won. Why can't she get that same trip again in here? I think you have to use her. The 3, Miss Extra, total wild card horse. You have a couple of these imports that I will be including. This one comes into the Mandela barn. I went and watched her last couple races, so you're watching the races from Chantilly, where in June she was sitting 5th, 6th, about 5 lengths off. She was too deep, but she was covered up. She had a big kick down the center of the racetrack to get up and win that day. And then last time out, she was bumped around. She was in traffic early. She was mid-pack. She got hooked 3-4 wide. There wasn't a ton of passing going on. She might have been in a tad too tough, but she was against the race shape that day. And the race has come back live. Fancy Blue has come out of it to win. So I think Miss Extra is on the tickets. Warren Showtime, ultra consistent. Don't have to sell you on her at all. She just shows up and runs a good race each and every time. Red Lark. She didn't get room until it was too late, and she ran well. If, Aqua C-Form Shame, Trickle In, they could be showing some speed in here. We could see speed from Parkour and Laura's Light. That means maybe 4 of them hook up. And Red Lark could get a great, great trip. Do not leave her off your ticket. She is just as good as some of these others in here. She just needs the trip. We got Niji Blanchet coming in, another one from France. This is a Group 3 winner last time out, who was taken back, was 4th of 5, was traveling really well, 3-4 lengths off. It was a nice win, and she can run all day. She's won at a mile and mile and 3/8. She's got a couple wins going a mile and a quarter on the synthetic. Pratt jumps aboard. You have to take that as a major positive. And then you get Parkour, who looks like speed. Laura's Light is so honest. She's the type of horse who I always try to beat because she's a short price. You think there's other speed in the race, and then she ends up sitting right behind and working out a great trip. She's tough for me to play against because I've tried to do it a few times and she's beat me. So I'm not going to let her beat me again in here. In a race where I don't have a massively strong opinion, I will end up spreading out a little bit. And it'll be combinations of 1, 3, 8, 7, 10, 4 in that order. It is the Pacific Classic in race number 10. And it's sad that we only have a small group in here, just a group of 6. And Maximum Security, Higher Power, and Midcourt all faced off in the San Diego, and they're going to be back. They were 1, 2, 3 in that race. They'll be your top 3 major contenders in here again. This all comes down to where do you stand on Maximum Security. The horse who crossed the wire first in the Kentucky Derby was disqualified, who won the Haskell, Cigar Mile, won in Saudi Arabia, and then we find out that his owner has been, or his trainer had, not owner, trainer, former trainer, had been drugging a bunch of his horses. So we never know how good is Maximum Security. Was he a horse who had been benefiting from, performance-enhancing drugs, and is he legitimately a good horse? Well, we see him come over to Baffert, and then it's interesting because Baffert's had his issues all throughout the year too, right? So you go from a barn that has said they were pumping stuff into these horses to a barn who's had a few hiccups throughout the year, but Maximum Security still showed up and ran pretty well. It was just a weird trip. He broke right on top, and Midcourt didn't break well. And so Midcourt ends up going to the lead, and Higher Power shows a little bit of speed. And what ends up happening is Maximum Security gets shuffled back and has to kind of shuffle back, come around again, and get up and get by. And he just does that, I guess based on his class and based on his determination. The way this race shapes up on paper in a small field, though. So Midcourt didn't break well, and then after a step slow, he ends up gunning it and getting over to the lead. From the rail, he's going to have to break well, and Victor Espinoza had said he's kind of a little bit of a head case. He does whatever he wants. But I'm still expecting Midcourt to break and be right there from the inside. Then I think Maximum Security, he's going to be, either on the lead or right there battling with Midcourt. Higher Power isn't going to be up as close, which will benefit him. He tried to sit a little bit closer and just not let them sneak away from him last time out. But that's not really what he wants. I think he's a little bit better when he can kind of relax. He's not as quick as those other two. He's going to be better if he can just take back, relax, and sit off of them. And he was your romping winner of the Pacific Classic where he just got a perfect, just that kind of a trip. He'll be farther back, but I think that will really benefit him more. Maybe 3 or 4 lengths back here. No issue with the 1.25 miles. He's run really well going this far. And that's where he may be able to even things out with this group. It's going to come down to Midcourt and Dark Vader. They have to put the pressure on Maximum Security, and then Higher Power gets the trip. What do you do with Sharp Samurai, who's a total wild card? If this was 1 1/8 on the dirt, I would like him a little more. 1.25 miles concerns me. He's got ability, and if Dark Vader, Maximum Security, Midcourt are going, and let's say maybe Higher Power ends up sitting a little too close, and Sharp Samurai is just behind them all and passes them all. I'm going to flop him in on one ticket just in case that happens. But in the way that I'll approach the late pick 5s, I'll play one where I single Higher Power, and I'll play one where I'm just using 2, 5, and 6. I think I'm against Midcourt. I just don't know if he's going to be able to win going 1.25 miles with Maximum Security breathing down his neck. So it'll be 2, 5, and 6 for me in the Pacific Classic. To close things out in race number 11 at Del Mar, final race of the Saturday card, I'm going to go to the 5. And that is Salvatore Mundi. To me, 4, 5 are sort of on a tier above everyone else. Salvatore Mundi had a brutal trip. He was tucked inside. He was fourth. He was 3 lengths off. He was waiting. He had nowhere to go. He was backed up into. He got shuffled. He tried to angle to the outside. Then he tried to angle back inside. Then he tried to go in between horses. He had to alter again alter course late. He was really unlucky. And he only was beaten half length that day. Now it's third start off the long layoff. He should be set for his absolute best. He's going to take one small step forward, and he should be right there. His rival right next door, Shadow Sphinx, is no slouch, though. He just sat close up right off the lead. That was off of a long layoff. He hadn't run from January of 2019 to June of 2020, and he just sat right there and looked loaded, looked a winner all the way around the track. So it's 5-4 on a top tier in the 11th for me. We'll also include the 6, Colossi. So he was off from December to June. In June, he didn't run that well. He needed the race. He got in some trouble. He was wide. Just put a line right through it. It was like a fitness type race. Then he comes back on July the 24th. He takes a good step forward. One more small step forward. He's right there with these top contenders. Look back to last year. He's got a race where he's just beaten by United. That race sort of jumps off the page. And then the 12 would be the other one for me to include in here. Knee deep in snow. Blinkers off. Just a total wild card. Could this one get aggressive from the outside and try to steal this race? We'll use 5, 4, 6, and 12 in race number 11 to close things out. So let's talk about the late pick 5. A couple different approaches to this late pick 5. Some must-use horses in the sequence. In the 8th race, the 4 take the 101. Anything around 5-1 will make a win wager. And in the 11th race, the number 5, Salvatore Mundi, is a must-use. You can play one big ticket where you single with United in the 7th, and you go something like 1 with 3, 4, 5, 6, with 1, 3, 4, 7, 8, 10, with 2, 5, 6, with 4, 5, 6, 12. And then I'd come back and play another ticket where I used a few others along with United to start. And I would single higher power there. So I would go 1, 3, 6, 10, with 3, 4, 5, 6, with 1, 3, 4, 7, 8, 10, with 2, with 4, 5, 6, 12. Maybe you don't want to single higher power. Maybe you would rather single in the back end with Salvatore Mundi. That's fine. You can do that. Or if you just want to play a much smaller ticket, you don't feel like spending a whole ton, why don't you single United to start, 3, 4, 5, 6, with 1, 3, 7, 8. You can use higher power and maximum security, 2, 5, and then 4, 5 to end. Much shorter, much more affordable ticket, but it feels still hittable where you might be able to get through a couple of these races with United, maybe only going too deep in the Pacific Classic, and maybe keying in on a strong opinion in the last. Good luck. This is probably one of the longer podcasts I've had in a while where I just sat and talked racing, which I kind of miss. It's fun to just sit down and go through almost every horse in every race, all the trip notes, go through the chart work and everything. So hopefully we led you to some winners this weekend, whether it was at Del Mar on Friday, Saratoga Friday, Del Mar Saturday, Saratoga Saturday. We now close things out with a preview of SummerSlam. It's a big weekend in the world of wrestling. Saturday night, we're going to have NXT TakeOver, and then Sunday night, it will be SummerSlam. So Darin Zoccali joins me to preview the SummerSlam card, the new Thunderdome concept for the WWE, which matches are we pumped for, we predict what's going to happen, and maybe what to look forward to because there's another pay-per-view just a week after. So full SummerSlam preview with Darin Zoccali for this Sunday's WWE pay-per-view. Kick back and enjoy. A big week in the world of wrestling, but like everything in 2020, it's going to be a little bit different this year. It is the week of SummerSlam, and joining me to preview this weekend's big event is our good friend Darin Zoccali. So, DZ, I mean, I think like most, normally at this point of the year, we probably have one or two celebrity involvements. We probably have one or two old veterans returning for SummerSlam, but it's a little bit different this year because, you know, they've been dealing with a smaller hand than normal with folks leaving in and out for all the COVID stuff. They've been based out of the Performance Center in Florida, which we know is going to change this week. So again, it's mixed feelings, I think, with a lot of these things that we see, because like I'm sure you love to turn on and watch the Yankees. I love to be able to watch the Dodgers, but it is a little bit of a bummer when you see the stadiums empty and no fans.
Yeah, I mean, I'm thankful for what we have, but at the same time, I mean, when SummerSlam was at the Barclays Center, I went to it with Amanda 3 years in a row. We always look forward to it, and I am curious to see what they're going to be doing with this whole Thunderdome thing.
It's intriguing.
It's something else, I mean, so it's an added element. But we're going to do a little SummerSlam party. I'm going to put up the big screen in the yard. We're going to have some friends over. They're going to come over with some kids and stuff. So we'll barbecue and everything like that. So we'll have a good time watching it in the backyard.
Yeah, you'll make the best of it, absolutely. So what when we look at this show, and before we even get into it, you're talking about the Thunderdome. So that's what we've been hearing about for the last week or so. And you know what? For as much over the last 5 years to 10 years, as much crap as we as fans give WWE about, storylines starting and stopping, maybe not following through, maybe, forcing certain things down our throats over and over. The one thing they've always done from the very, very beginning of this company, they have been excellent with producing things, production value, the way they put their videos, the way they put packages together, the way they show things. Even the way they produce TV a lot of the time, they've been sort of ahead and a little bit cutting edge. This is something that I honestly don't know how big a deal it's going to be. Is it just going to be like what we see in the other sports where they have some of the virtual fans? Is they going to? But I'm intrigued, and this is something where I put my faith in WWF and I trust them because they've always done really well in this department.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Kevin Dunn, who produces, he has some moments that make you cringe, but he also, is responsible for a lot of the good things that they do from a production standpoint. He talked about the fact that it's going to kind of resemble the NBA virtual fan experience, but they're not going to be using these flat board-facing cameras. That he said that there's going to be rows and rows of fans with enhanced chants and cheering. So, that's cool. It's going to have a state-of-the-art set. They're talking about having pyro and, lasers and cool graphics, and they even talked about having drone cameras and stuff. Mm-hmm. So, okay, cool. It's something different. They're doing some stuff outside of the box, which is something you need right now. So, like you said, we do get on them for a lot of stuff and a lot of the things that they do. But, I try to give them a break now dealing with what they're dealing with. There's a lot of difficult decisions that are going to be criticized and scrutinized. But when they come up with something that's different, I want it to succeed, and I'll certainly be watching, with anticipation, and hope that this entire Thunderdome thing comes together nicely for them.
So what's going to be a little bit different about this particular show, this SummerSlam that's coming up on Sunday, is that they've actually already scheduled another pay-per-view for next Sunday. Following immediately for Payback. So we're imagining that there's probably going to be a lot of rematches or a lot of storylines that maybe don't finish at SummerSlam, which is also kind of unique because we generally think of WrestleMania, SummerSlam as kind of the big events where maybe all the storylines kind of culminate and come to an end. But it's a different time because TV is starting to become important for them. I think their ratings are starting to really slip. And at this point of the year, with baseball back, with the NBA playoffs back, with all these political conventions going on and football around the corner, I think they're going to continue to try to keep some things on TV like what they're doing this week. We've got a Jeff Hardy versus AJ Styles Intercontinental title match, and it seems like there are maybe a few feuds from SmackDown that we might get added late, or maybe we don't even. Maybe they save them for Payback for next week. We don't really have anything on paper with Riddle or Corbin. We don't really have anything on paper with with Sheamus, Miz and Morrison, and Otis and Tucker. Could see some of their involvement. So it's going to be a little unique the way they're putting the SummerSlam and then the Payback pay-per-view right afterwards.
Yeah, I always forget that Otis has the Money in the Bank briefcase too. That story is like a complete non-entity right now. Yeah, I mean, you would think they have to have something in mind Well, there's one or two things you could be thinking. Number one, they're just trying this week apart pay-per-view thing to see how it goes. Or they have some kind of like a big angle coming out of SummerSlam that they want to get, that they think is going to be hot, that they want to get like, they want it to come back right after, a week later. There's the stuff with Retribution. There's been rumors about, a big name guy who's a former champion coming back.
They got the Raw Underground stuff going on.
Yeah.
Who knows if that's going to have any sort of impact in the next few weeks to, either of these pay-per-views. So, yeah, I mean, it at the very least, there are some things that are intriguing, that we're curious about, that we're kind of looking into.
Yeah.
And, when wrestling gets a little boring and a little bland in some of the months before they're able to build up to the big shows, that's a complaint. At least right now with I have some questions and I have some intrigue to at least 3 or 4 of these matches and some of the other stuff, like you mentioned, the Retribution stuff and who knows with the Raw Underground. So they've now announced we're going to have a 2-hour kickoff show, which I always think is sort of weird, unless they're going to put a couple matches on the kickoff show. Even when they do, an hour seems totally fine, and then give me like 2 10-minute matches. You can give me a 40-minute preview, give me a couple 10-minute matches that are fine, one at the beginning, one at the end to kind of get everything flowing. But nonetheless, 2-hour kickoff show, that'll probably be something I have rolling on in the background on Sunday as I start to get the drinks and start to get flowing. Let's get to the card. So yeah, we mentioned there could be some of the matches that aren't listed in this 8-match card, things that we may see on Sunday or we may not. AJ Jeff, Riddle Corbin, Lashley, Shelton, Ricochet, Cedric, they don't have anything. Maybe I could see some semblance of a tag with those 4 on the kickoff. Nia, Shayna, the Iconics, Ruby, Liv, Sheamus, Miz Morrison, Otis Tucker. Maybe look for some of them either Friday or to have a late match made. But we do start with the Street Profits versus Andrade and Angel Garza. I like all of these performers for the most part. And I think the Street Profits came in and instantly were sort of in the tag team title range. They had that weird stuff going on with the Viking Raiders, and they're entertaining. It still feels like it's not quite connected with them. I do like Zelina Vega. I like what she does, but again, I like all of these performers. It just still feels a little bit missing, like maybe everyone hasn't quite been elevated into their right spots. And I mean, we know with WWF, WWE, they get very hot and cold with their tag divisions. Sometimes they get really into the tag and they're going to push them. And right now it seems like this is just kind of like, who do we have that's left that we can kind of throw in the tag division?
Yeah, you're right. And there's been teams that have just been thrown together to get matches. Ricochet and Cedric Alexander and stuff like that. The tag division right now is far from ideal. I mean, the Street Profits are entertaining. I like them. I think they're fine in the ring. They're good. The Red Solo Cup stuff is fun, and the whole thing with the poisoning of the drink is okay. It's fun. But as far as the match, I mean, look, from a standpoint of like athletic ability on paper, the Street Profits, Andrade and Angel Garza, probably going to be a very good wrestling match.
Yep.
I don't know if I'm totally bought into the storyline, and we'll see how I feel when the match is going on. But from a sheer wrestling standpoint, I think it'll be entertaining from when you look at it that way. In terms of who wins, I guess the Street Profits probably retain, but with Zelina, with the weird storyline and the poisoning, who knows? I mean, something wild could certainly happen with everything that they're doing there, but I actually think it'll be a fun match.
Yeah, I agree. This will be one of those, like, once the bell flips, we'll probably forget a little bit about the storyline just being because as you mentioned, these guys can go. There's going to be a couple great spots in here. There's always a good Montez Ford spot in one of his matches. So, yeah, I like these guys, and we'll probably get a good 10, 12 minutes with them in the ring. Let's go next to this one is a little strange to me. Apollo Crews versus MVP. Now, I like at MVP the association of MVP, Lashley, and Shelton Benjamin with the Hurt Business. I actually think they're putting them together is very good because the 3 of them apart, and in particular Lashley not being with them, he just gets lost in the mix. He just you kind of forget about him and how good and big and dominant he is. What's weird is that we're recording this on Thursday, Darin. Like on Monday night, Apollo had a clean pin over MVP right in the middle of the ring in an elimination match, and then Lashley eliminates Apollo. It just feels like the match that they're building to and that they've been building to all along is really Apollo versus Lashley, because Lashley's the big monster. So this just kind of feels like it's a little more filling, maybe to Payback next week, maybe just to kind of further their storyline, because I feel like the match that we're all sort of looking for and circled is Lashley-Apollo.
I totally agree. I was thinking the same thing. I figured I know Lashley is not supposed to be at ringside because of the win that Apollo had over Shelton. But my feeling is something's probably still going to happen. I viewed this as one of the ones that could get brought right back around. Cruz wins and he faces Lashley next week. I could definitely see that happening. I like MVP, to be honest with you. I think he's done a good job coming back. Always liked him on the mic. He's an entertaining guy. I like what they've done with this Hurt Business. I think that the three of them play off each other very well. When he came back, I was kind of cold on it because it's been so long since we've seen him. But I actually think he's done a good job.
I agree, yeah.
This has been a little bit kind of lackluster at times because the story is kind of weaved in and out. Okay, well, where is this? Like you said, it feels like the main rivalry should be Cruz and Lashley, and I think we're probably going to get there at some point, and probably in the not-too-distant future. But I like Cruz as a worker, and I've enjoyed MVP since coming back, so I think this will be fine.
Yeah, there's the weird stuff going on with Ricochet and Cedric. Like if one of those guys turned, it wouldn't be surprising. Or maybe they show up and they help MVP win the match or for a DQ, something. I could see some sort of a schmoz, like you said. This one feels weird to have this match back again, where it feels like in the last few weeks Apollo's kind of gotten the better of MVP clean. So something schmozzy is going to happen and have this build for next week. We get to Mandy Rose versus Sonya Deville, and we give the hair versus hair match. And we just got to mention, when we talk about Sonya Deville, how about that scary story earlier this week, Darin, where there was a crazy fan who was trying to kidnap Sonya Deville and was found in her house, in her home. Just really terrifying.
Yeah. I mean, the fact that he was able to get into her house and stuff, that is some crazy, spooky stuff. I'm just glad that she's okay. But, yeah, the fact that goes on, we have to realize, these guys, they're entertainers and they're in the spotlight. And, whenever we see them in person, we want high fives and stuff like that. But you never really see the other side of it, where you can understand why they could be a little bit apprehensive because, this stuff does go on. And it's a scary reminder when a story like this pops up. I'm just glad that she wasn't there when the guy showed up and that they were able to arrest him and that Sonya's okay. But, yeah, this was scary.
Fingers crossed everything's going okay, because right now this is the biggest push and the biggest run of Sonya's career. And I got to admit, I've been very impressed with when she's given time on the mic. I think she does a pretty good job. She's actually come off very real to me, and we know that she's a real badass behind the scenes. She's an actual legitimate fighter. So I think this stuff with Mandy, it's kind of drawn on for a while, and it can get a little silly sometimes. But hey, when Man and the Miz and Morrison doing the hair stuff a few weeks ago was just roll your eye. It's like one of those comedy segments where when we're watching, you just don't want your wife or your friends to walk in and see it. You're like holding the remote, like I hope nobody sees me watching this. But the way that Mandy came back with a nice fire last week. These two, they have good chemistry. They're good friends backstage. I think Sonya will get a good few minutes out of Mandy here, and I think at least there'll be some intensity. And I'm not like gonna just skip right past this. I'm actually sort of intrigued by this match.
I like the story. I think they've done a great job with it. Because if you follow Sonya on social media, or if you're a heterosexual male, you definitely follow Mandy on Instagram. But prior to this starting, Mandy's Instagram account was always loaded with her and Sonya. They did everything together in the real world. And when this started, that all like stopped. So when you factor that in and you see like, what Sonya is saying, I'm sure that this is all storyline, but you can really relate to the story because here is this kind of sporty, really athletic female wrestler who is extremely jealous of her blonde bombshell, gorgeous ex-friend Mandy, thinking I'm the better wrestler, I'm the better athlete, I'm the better performer. I can't stand you, and the fact that everybody is just, absolutely head over heels obsessed with you. It's a good story. It works. I think the two of them have done a great job with it. They've played off each other very well. In terms of the result, I have a hard time believing that Mandy Rose is going to have her head shaved.
I know. Right?
I can't see that happening.
No.
Crazier things, I guess, have happened, but that would be really surprising to me.
It would. I just can't see it. I cannot see it.
I can't see it happening either. But I mean, look, it's been a really good story. If this is the blow off, I would say that the two of them have done a really good job with it.
I agree. I would love to see here's what I think that Mandy is still a cut below, the title, and Sonya might be, but with no Charlotte, with no Becky right now. I like Bayley. I love what Bayley and Sasha have been doing. I think they've been doing a great job. I love Asuka. We've been getting a lot of them in that title picture for a while. A little new blood. One of these two injected, whether either one of them, even if it's Sonya, even if it's Sonya with Asuka or whatever it is, I think would just help freshen things up a little bit. So maybe whoever wins this can get sort of elevated and at least give them a shot at a match or a pay-per-view for a month, sort of storyline. Because we're going to get to the women's matches next. And I will say, the very beginning when Bayley was heel, I didn't like it at all. I did not like it. I thought, this is stupid. Bayley is one of the best baby faces you'll ever have. How could you ruin her as a baby face and you turn her heel? I will say, when Sasha and her teamed up, they started to find some things because we know how good of friends they are. We know the chemistry they have. And Bayley was able to kind of just sort of play heel wrestler like she would have seen growing up, and she started to do it pretty well. She's doing a lot of small things that I like. We could tell how much WWE is watching so much of the old stuff. I'm getting the WWFs in there now as we watch so many SummerSlams and Survivor Series from the olden days. But I like all of this. The only problem I have is that we feel like we've been waiting for this Bayley-Sasha blow-off match for years now. I mean, years. They really haven't had a match feud since they've come up from NXT, and they had that incredible Brooklyn match at NXT that everybody talked about as one of the greatest women's matches ever. We sort of assumed they would go right into it, but they've been playing off of each other very well. I think we're all just waiting. Like, any of these weeks, it could be the week where they lose maybe all of their titles, and it could start right here. Very easily could see Sasha winning both of them. You could see Sasha winning one here and maybe one that payback or Asuka winning one here and maybe one the next week. I could see them, losing the tag belts the next week. With them having 3 titles, I really could see anything happening over the next week and a half to 2 weeks.
So, in the old days when storylines were built up for months and months and months, where they started to like drop hints at things that were going to be happening, especially going into WrestleMania season, I would say that what I would expect is that one of them is going to lose on Sunday, and there's going to be some blame on the other one for the loss. And they're going to start to plant the seeds for the blow-off to come at WrestleMania. But we don't really see 7-8 month storylines anymore. Now, they could do it. It's possible. And to be honest with you, that would probably be the smart way to go about this.
Mm-hmm.
So to have one of them get beat for some silly reason.
Maybe like the other one's fault.
Yes.
Trying to help each other and,
Yeah, where it doesn't just totally flip on its ear, but they start to plant the seeds for the blow-off. and the blow-off would come at WrestleMania. That would be my guess. I think that Bayley has certainly improved her heel character, as you said. Sasha's a great heel, in my opinion. I do think that there's so much talent in the women's division that to have all the belts on two girls kind of rubs me the wrong way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I don't know how long you can get away with that. But I think the stories worked well. The two of them work very well together. You would think it's going to be leading towards Sasha versus Bayley in a significant spot, probably at WrestleMania. I mean, look, I'm not a WWE writer. If I were doing this, I would plant the seeds here. The other one holds onto their belt. One eliminates the other during the Women's Royal Rumble match, and that's the thing that really sends it into a tailspin. I mean, that's probably what I would do here. We'll see what happens. I'm curious. There's a lot of different ways they can go. And, hey, Sasha versus Asuka, Bayley versus Asuka, yes, please on both of those. They should be two very good matches.
Completely agree. I'm into the women stuff. I think this has been the women. They've done a really good job with the women during this pandemic era. And the next couple matches we're going to start to talk about, I think they've done a pretty good job in the pandemic era also. Let's get to the Strowman versus The Fiend first, and then I think the two matches that have sort of been built the most we'll talk about at the end. So we got Braun Strowman versus The Fiend, and now what we have is we've got this Strowman Express version of Braun Strowman who is sort of a heel. He's not being receptive to Alexa Bliss, who seemed to get abducted by The Fiend. He doesn't really care about her. It seems like his interaction with The Fiend at the Swamp and Bray Wyatt have turned him into this monster. And I like Braun. I like Bray. I like The Fiend. I actually think their match that they had a couple months back, the work in the ring up until the stuff at the end where Braun put the mask on was actually very good. And then even the stuff at the end when Braun put the mask on was fine. Yeah. You could see the psychological stuff they were going for. I think these two guys have chemistry. Is this the time for Bray the Fiend to win the title back here?
If it is, it's probably because WWE knows Roman is coming back.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a big part of what's going on, to be honest with you. I think that Roman versus the Fiend is going to be a big match at some point in the very near future when Roman does come back. And I think Strowman is really just kind of holding the belt to get to that point. So I'm not exactly sure when that's going to happen. But the whole Strowman angle, honestly, for me, it feels a little forced.
I agree.
It's not the Braun Strowman that we saw 2-3 years ago, who was just a one-man wrecking crew who didn't give a shit, just beat the hell out of everybody and flipped stuff over. That's the best version of Strowman that they have. This is kind of a little too cartoonish, forced, bad guy character. Like he's trying to play like he's becoming this crazy psycho at times. But he could be a crazy psycho just by doing what he used to do 2-3 years ago without all this extracurricular stuff.
It's just overdoing it. I agree.
Yeah, I feel like it's a little overdone. I'm curious to see what they do. I'm curious to see how the match ends. I always like seeing The Fiend. I still think that they've screwed up a lot of the stuff with him ever since he got beat by Goldberg. It's kind of, for me, just really flattened the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
But, this could be interesting. I think Roman versus The Fiend in a big spot could be very good at some point. I think that's a match that they absolutely want to have. Maybe this gets us there. But, yeah, the Braun Strowman stuff has been a little bit forced, in my opinion.
And then there's one person who's also not on this show that they've been starting to tease a build, and it seems like it's a long build, but I wonder what the plans are down the line for Big E. Because it feels like the first time they're talking about Big E as a singles competitor, he's getting to cut promos where he's a little more serious. He goes from funny to serious back and forth. He was calling out the charge against Retribution in the locker room. So he feels like maybe he's the leader of some Survivor Series team, or it feels like there's a big something coming for Big E at some point. I don't know if it's the title, but he is getting built up on the SmackDown side as maybe at least an IC challenger to AJ, or maybe even further up. This is hopefully Big E's time. I think he deserves it. He has been awesome in his role with the New Day, but Kofi got the moment to shine. This feels like it should be Big E's chance. Maybe it's Rumble, maybe it's Mania where he has a big match, but I'm hoping they do something with him a few months down the line.
I see the same thing. I think the writing is on the wall there. The push has definitely begun. The fans like him. He's a great worker. As our buddy Andrew would say, he's a big guy that can move.
Yep.
You got to get that plug in.
Got it. He'll love it.
I agree with you. I do think that there is something big coming up for him. I don't know if it's going to be the Universal title. It could be an IC title run, but I think he's worthy of a main event run. I hope he gets it. There's a lot of things that they could do here. So I am curious to see how that plays out, and I'm curious to see what the fallout is from this Strowman versus Fiend match.
And you mentioned earlier, too, something that WWE does a good job of this. They've sort of made us forget about Otis with that briefcase. I don't know if it's right now, but when you forget and you haven't seen him running out there with a briefcase a few times, that generally means they're thinking of something. They're trying to throw you in a different direction. So on a show that on paper doesn't seem to maybe have a bunch of big splashes, this could be one to come out of the show to get people talking and then build immediately to another match the next week, whether it be a triple threat, whether it be Otis Fiend, Otis Braun, whatever it was going to be. It just, Otis into this feud with the Fiend, I don't know. I couldn't really see it that much. I could maybe see Otis versus Braun if Braun's turned into this bad guy now. Maybe I could see that. But that was a good point of yours, because I felt the same way. I kind of forgot about Otis with the briefcase, and that's when they come in and they hit you right in the face with it. So don't forget, Otis has got that, and maybe keep an eye out during this Fiend Braun match. Yeah,
which, I mean, it's hard to imagine that he's cashing in on the Fiend. Like, it just doesn't sit right. Mm-hmm. See, that when he won Money in the Bank, and I saw what the main event picture looked like, and I'm sitting there and I'm saying, well, how is this going to work? Like, how are you working Otis in with these guys? It just doesn't make sense. But look, I mean, my take on SummerSlam coming up as a whole, and maybe this includes, I could see a lot of chaos. I could see a lot of title changes here. I mean, I think the Fiend is winning. I think Orton is winning. I wouldn't be shocked if Asuka wins one, if not both. I mean,
completely agree.
They might flip a lot of belts here. The tag titles could definitely flip. I mean, they might flip a lot of belts here, and I wouldn't be surprised if all hell breaks loose. And maybe somehow the chaos of it all is how you get Otis into it. But I don't know. Right now, they might have their backs up against the wall with him, with the fact that he's carrying that briefcase, because I don't know what they're going to do with it.
Trying to shoehorn him into a main event storyline. Yeah, I agree. So the two matches that have been built the most, or first we'll talk Dominic Mysterio with Rey versus Seth Rollins with Murphy. I love Seth. I do. I think over the last 5 to 10 years, he's been one of the best performers and probably the most consistent performer in all of WWF. He's done a pretty good job as a face. I think he's done a better job as a heel. This Messiah run, I haven't really loved what they've given him to work with. He's still done some good stuff in the ring, but where they got a little crazy was the eye for the eye match. They've done it now twice, where Rey Mysterio had his eye taken out, and now and then Buddy Murphy did it to Aleister Black too. If you just remove the whole taking the eye out of the socket thing from this storyline, I would really enjoy it. I think Dominic's done a pretty good job for someone who's been put into a pretty pressure-packed role where he's in one of the top feuds for SummerSlam. When he's on the mic, you could see he's still going through the motions a little bit and thinking what he's supposed to say, but I've seen plenty worse out there. He's done a good job taking a beating. He's looked athletic enough in the ring. He's got a name that get people excited because we know Rey Mysterio. So I think people would be more invested in this if they didn't do the stupid eye stuff. Because then you just kind of get silly and roll your eyes a little bit. If there was just a, hey, I'm going to end Rey Mysterio's career, he's done, instead of I'm trying to extract his eyeball from his socket, that just took me out of it a little bit.
Yeah, I would agree. Rollins, we've talked about this in the past. Rollins, for me, is a far better heel than he is a babyface.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like his character tendencies are more naturally heelish and more forced babyface. That being said, because he's such a good heel, he doesn't need this messiah shtick.
No.
Just let him be a heel. He can do it on his own.
Mm-hmm.
Now, they've done a good job in the fact that making this a street fight, in the fact that you're taking this kid Dominic and you're putting him in the ring with one of the best workers in the business.
Yeah.
On one of the biggest shows of the year. I mean, that's a lot to ask of this kid. And they're going to cover up some of that with the fact that it's a street fight. Mm-hmm. So you're going to get kendo sticks, you're going to get chairs, you're going to get brawl, you're going to get
Ray and Murphy will both be in the mix, I'd imagine. Yeah.
So you're going to take away from the wrestling part of it, and you're going to get more of the brawl fight part of it, which will cover the fact that you've got basically a novice in there with an all-time great worker. So that will help. What they're going to do, I honestly, you really going to have Dominic Mysterio pin Seth Rollins at SummerSlam? I mean, is that actually going to happen? I don't know. It's hard to imagine, but at the same time, it's a street fight. Ray gets involved, he does something. I mean, there's so many different things that they could do with this that I don't even know where to begin to guess what it's going to be. But, they have a blank canvas here, and they could potentially have some fun with it and do some good. So I'm curious to see where it goes.
Yeah, I agree. There's going to be a lot of bells and whistles in this match. There's going to be a lot of outside interference. There should be, and that's what you said. Is Dominic going to go over one of the biggest stars in your company right now? Early on, you're going to put him over Seth, and maybe you are, and it's part of the storyline. And maybe I've also heard that Seth is going to be taking some time off pretty soon because of Becky Lynch, and they got the baby. She's pregnant. Maybe he's going to go home for a little bit and have some time off now, and that way he can be back and ready for the build to Mania. Maybe we see. And I will say, if that is the case, with no Roman right now, with Owens being in and out, no Daniel Bryan, it just feels like a lot of the big stars aren't there. And Seth has been someone, whether or not you love the storyline, he has been just an absolute workhorse and someone they've had to lean on heavily over the last couple months.
Yes. Yeah, no, they have. They've relied heavily on a couple of people, and Rollins has been a cornerstone of the Raw show now for quite some time. I don't love the Messiah thing. I think either. It's weird and whatever. But, he's done a good job of what he's been dealt, I feel. I like Buddy Murphy. I think he does a good job. I think he would be fine just being Buddy Murphy, to be honest with you.
He was good. He's great in the ring. Yeah.
He's great in the ring, yeah. So, it's good that he's aligned with Rollins. It puts him in a big spot. I hope that he does bigger stuff down the line because I think he's a real I think he could be a real good piece of the puzzle, even up to the main event level in the years to come if they do the right thing with him. But, yeah, you talk about some things that WWE has had to do, some things they've had to think outside the box, and a couple of things you have to fall back to old reliable to kind of, just secure a couple of things. And Rollins has certainly been able to do that for them.
We get to the main event. It is Drew McIntyre, the champion, versus Randy Orton. And Randy Orton has been incredible since WrestleMania, everything going on. He's been reigniting this legend killer character that he had years back, where he's gone through, he's put Edge out, he put Christian out now, The Big Show, Ric Flair, Shawn Michaels, all. And what I really like about this, Darin, is I think there's been plenty. The ratings are struggling. Plenty of bad stuff that we see on our TVs or stuff that doesn't feel important each week. They've done a great job with Drew also. This isn't like me saying, oh, Drew's not the hot champion anymore. I think you got to go with Randy. This is just Randy is hotter right now, and I would much rather see Drew chase Randy than the other way around. I think it's great to put it on Randy. He can do something cheap, cheat to win. Then we can have Drew come and chase him and try to get it back. I think that's the way you go right now. And Shawn Michaels teased some involvement with, he said maybe I'm out there with the sweet chin music. So maybe we see some combination of these legends come out, try to help Drew. Something happens and Randy gets the win. But I think this is Randy's time right now. I've never been just a pure Randy Orton guy, because a lot of the times I was upset that he'd be put into feuds. Like you mentioned this a lot. You could tell when he's not into something. Yeah. And as a fan, that's, I'm always, man, this guy's so good. He's so talented. Why does this feel like it's not that great? It has not been the case at all with this feud and with this character that Randy's had recently. I love it. They've been doing a great job with him.
Yeah, so here's my take on what's going on. I think that they've gone to Randy and they said, look, we're really struggling here. We need you to step up huge right now. We're going to put the belt on you. We're going to give you a run. But this whole chase of McIntyre, and we really, really need you to dig down to the stuff, the character that you can really, personify. And we really, really need you to carry the mail here. I think that's what's happened. And he has delivered in every sense of the word. I am a big Randy Orton guy because when he's on, there are few better. And you can, when you talk about character versus worker, loop in mic work, plus, in my opinion, the greatest finisher probably in the history of wrestling.
Believability too. Everything from his pedigree with his dad to just the way he presents himself. He comes off like a dick. You know what I mean? Like he always. That's why he's a better heel too than a babyface, and he's fine when he's kind of that really edgy babyface. But he's so great because I genuinely think he wants to kick everybody in the head. I think this is when he talks, I'm like, this is who this guy is backstage. He really comes off very, early Austin-y heel, even like, I just don't care about any of you. And he's even said it. I mean, some of his promos, he's like, I'm better than all of you. I mean more to WWE than all of you do. They know it. They'll never fire me no matter what, even if I half-ass it some of the time. Like, just telling us that is great. And this is maybe my favorite version of Randy Orton, or damn close to it.
I'll tell you what. You talk about if we look at the last 20 years, and you talk about Cena and Rock and Austin and Triple H and Roman, all these big headline guys, and Randy Orton, even though a lot of he's looked at as a big guy, but it's always been like the kind of thing with Randy where sometimes he treads water, and when they need him, they go back to him. Like, he's like old Reliant. Mm-hmm. But 15 years from now, we're going to look back, and a lot of people will be like, you know what? That guy was a lot better than I gave him credit.
Super underrated. Because he's one of those guys that you sort of take for granted because you figure he's always going to be there. Just like you said, he's like the good hand. Oh, we can kind of inject him into anything. But I will say WWE has always treated him very important and talked about him. And even in the last 6 months, talking about him like he's one of the greatest. So even when he's not in those big feuds, they still discuss him like he's one of the all-timers. And I agree. I think hindsight will be 2020 when it's all said and done, and we'll look back and go, like, all of those folks you mentioned, he was basically a bridge too with all of them from the very end of that Attitude Era into today. He worked with so many different guys. I mean, from the Legend Killer stuff, the youngest WWF champion ever. I mean, all this. I mean, it's sad to say, and even think about it. I mean, he was working with Benoit all the time ago. You know what I mean? Which was years back, and you forget how long he's been around and continue to work at a high level. It feels like he should be older, and he shouldn't be able to do as much in the ring right now as he does.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, from that standpoint, like with the stuff that he's done with so many different people, and being able to kind of like transcend that character all the way through, regardless of who he's working with, like the SummerSlam moment where he, where he beat Daniel Bryan after Bryan, like everybody was celebrating.
That was great.
I mean, people hated it. People hated it, but it was phenomenal.
It was so great.
Phenomenal. People when he's gone, that you're going to miss him. When he's done, you're really going to miss him. And the stuff that he's done the last few months has been tremendous. I'm looking forward to a title run with him. There's a lot of different things that they could do. When it comes to Randy Orton, like you said, when he's not fully invested. But my God, when he is invested, the stuff that he does is second to none. And I'm really pumped for this match. I love Drew. I feel bad for him that this has been his title run, that it's been during this COVID era. He deserved better after everything that he's gone through and worked on to get to where he was. And I'm sure that they're going to give him another opportunity.
Mm-hmm. He's put himself now. The one thing this did was it did make him feel legitimate. Mm-hmm. Whether or not he's had he's had to face Dolph a few times. He had the Big Show stuff. He hasn't had those are the normal, he hasn't had the list of really great competitors. And this will be his first really well-built big match since having the title. But I agree. Before WrestleMania, before the Rumble, I think, because they did a great job from the Rumble to WrestleMania. As soon as he won that Rumble, he really did feel a lot bigger than he ever had before. And now he legitimately feels like he deserves to be a main eventer. I don't think what's going to happen with Kofi is going to happen with him, where he's just going to drop right back down in the middle of the card and become non-existent. He feels like he's going to be a perennial top guy now. Yeah.
Well, and also it's not going to happen because he's, Vince loves the big guys and he's a big guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's not going to, he's going to stay up there. He'll get another run at some point. There's a lot of different things that they could do with him. I'm looking forward to this match. If I were them, how I would end this, I would leave 4 guys in the ring after getting RKO'd. You could bring down Shawn again, bring down Flair, bring down Triple H, hit RKOs on everybody, and the thing ends with Orton holding the belt with everybody just laid out in the ring.
That would be great.
That's how I would end this pay-per-view. And then you can do whatever the hell you want from there.
I agree. It's got to be Orton. It's his time right now because I don't like when they wait too long for you got to strike when the iron's hot. Strike right now with Orton. He's hot. He's one of the buzzy things that people are talking about. He's one of the most positive things you have coming out of your shows week in and week out. Give Drew a good heel to chase, and then we have our story now for the next half of the year. Drew trying to chase Randy and get that back as Randy's got the belt. He's going crazy and he's RKOing everyone.
Yep, that's what it has to be. And then, you can do whatever you want from there. There's a million different things that you could do. When you put heel Randy in the spotlight and you give him a belt and you got a big baby face chasing him and he's like the twisted psychotic Randy Orton. It's a lot of fun. And I think, however long this run is going to be, I do think it's going to be a lot of fun and I'm looking forward to it.
And who knows, we were talking about injecting Roman into the Fiend Braun stuff because that felt natural, that felt like what they were supposed to do. Maybe Roman gets injected here to wherever Randy is. When
Roman and Randy worked together years ago, it was really good.
And he's the guy that's trying to save the company or trying to, the good guy fighting off evil Randy Orton. And that's fine. And the people, I think, we'd like that because Roman would be so fresh. We hadn't seen him recently. He'd be the guy coming back to save us. And maybe that's where they go. So, yeah, a lot of options in a very intriguing weekend coming up. DZ, we've talked about a lot of old SummerSlams in our old wrestling rewatches. I think we've gone through now 89, 91. I did 92. We did 94 together. We've done a bunch of those SummerSlams. And I know you're the same way. I love SummerSlam. It's different than Mania, but it's such a fun week. Like SummerSlam, Mania, Rumble, to me, those three really stand head and shoulders above everything else in the world of wrestling. I just get excited. I love going back and watching the old ones in the weeks leading up to them. I get very nostalgic. And again, this year is going to be different, but with the addition of the Thunderdome stuff, with the fact that they've piggybacked another pay-per-view next week, I'm intrigued. I'm still very, very interested in what they're going to be doing in the next couple weeks.
Yeah, and I agree with everything you said. SummerSlam historically has been known for two things. they have really, really good matches that you always point back to and go, man, that was a, that was an epic match. Even way back when you talk about Brett Perfect, Brett and Bulldog, the Brett Owen cage match.
Some good tag matches with Demolition and the Hearts, and yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and it's also known for having some really wild and like fascinating moments. We talked about, the Orton thing with Daniel Bryan. The Brock Orton thing where he got busted open the hard way was nuts. Just a couple of years ago, the Fatal 4-Way with Lesnar, Roman, Strowman, and Joe was a sick match. I mean, they have some really good moments and some really good matches. I hopefully everything goes well with this Thunderdome thing because I think they're poised to have a pretty darn good show the way that they've set it up.
I agree, DZ. And I look forward to going back in time and talking some old wrestling with you next week. I think we're going to be talking some Survivor Series 95 and a really good match with Brett and Diesel. And so after SummerSlam, Survivor Series will be the next big wrestling event that we circle and put on the map. And we'll just briefly, before I let you go, I'm sure you'll probably be throwing it on Saturday night and watching NXT too. It's a big weekend for WWE as they have, talk about the next week. So we got Friday SmackDown with the new Thunderdome stuff. We got Saturday NXT. We've got Sunday Survivor Series. We've got Monday Night Raw. We got Wednesday NXT. We got Friday SmackDown, and then another pay-per-view on Sunday. So over the next week and a half, there is just a ton. But the one thing that I think is worth at least talking about is the Pat McAfee Adam Cole match they're gonna have. I like Pat a lot. I think he's really funny. He does a good job. He kind of gets it, and he's got a great personality. And he cut a pretty damn good promo the other night on Adam Cole. It's felt like Adam Cole and the Undisputed Era have sort of been ready to move up for a while, but what you talked about with Vince loving big man, they're kind of in no man's land. I could see them coming up and getting lost in the shuffle, or I could see Adam Cole coming up and being, the next CM Punk. I really don't know, but this should be fun at the very least. We'll see if McAfee can go in the ring, but I know he may cut a promo or two, and there should be a lot of goofy, fun, schmozzy stuff in this match.
Yeah, I agree. One of the things that I thought that could potentially happen was, like, Adam Cole, wins this match, and somehow, some way shows up at SummerSlam and cuts a promo where he's like, look, NXT's got me fighting former NFL punters. I'm done with that shit.
Yeah.
It's time for the big time. Something like that. Maybe that's what they're going to do. Look, if you like wrestling, watch TakeOver. You got a ladder match that includes Gargano, Velveteen Dream, Damian Priest, who I think is really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Keith Lee versus Karrion Kross, which should be a barn burner. Finn Balor versus Tim Thatcher. Listen, it's NXT TakeOver. It's going to be a good show, and this is going to be no exception.
Big weekend of wrestling coming up for the WWE. Darin, thank you so much for talking with me, buddy. And it's weird the way that this year has worked in the world, because we felt like for a while there was so much time where there was nothing going on in the world of sports, and it was really just sort of racing and wrestling week to week that we were talking about. And now things seem to be really flying, because we're almost done with Saratoga and with Del Mar. We're almost to the Kentucky Derby, the first Saturday in May. Our baseball teams that we like are both playing some really good ball right now. We're like 35% of the way, almost 40% of the way through a baseball season. So as slow as things were moving, a few months ago, once this July into August picked up, now things are really flying by.
You think about it from a racing standpoint, you're going to have Derby, Preakness, Breeders' Cup in about a 10-week period. So that's going to be pretty wild. My team was playing well until literally like half the squad is hurt again. It's
same thing as last year. It's like, what's in the water over there?
They lost Glaber today.
Oh, my gosh.
Glaber, Torres, Judge, Stanton, who's got a leg injury every single year. I don't know how it's possible. Severino, Zach Britton's on the DL. It's ridiculous. I just don't understand how this could be happening again, but look, whatever. Hopefully they figure out a way to get to the playoffs and they have a healthy team by then. But, yeah, and we got football. We didn't even mention football starting in a couple of weeks. It's all of a sudden things have gotten pretty crazy. Let's hope that things move in the right direction from a COVID standpoint, and we can enjoy fall sports and everything is good because, once school's open and the weather gets cooler, who knows what the hell's going to happen, man.
DZ, my friend, let the folks know where can we follow you online.
Yeah, on Twitter, at the Track 7. Definitely we'll get some wrestling stuff, some racing stuff this weekend. A lot of big stuff going on. We're 2 weeks from the Derby, so we're definitely going to start to really dive into the Derby contenders, even though there may only be one. It's going to be a unique and an interesting year. But yeah, follow me on Twitter at the Track 7. You'll get a ton of horse racing. You'll get racing. You'll get baseball and fantasy football. I'm also a big into, so we'll start ramping that up as well. A lot to look forward to.
Don't go anywhere, folks. There'll be plenty more on That's What G Said. A big thank you to Darin Zoccali. And that's going to be it for this episode of That's What G Said. A big thank you to DZ, Darin Zoccali, for joining us. We didn't have as many guests. Sometimes when I have a lot of different things to go to, it's just a little bit easier for me to try to fit it all in without having a few guests. So we'll get a couple people on next week to talk some racing with us and to bounce around, and we'll start previewing the NFL. We are less than 3 weeks away from football season starting. So we're going to have some fantasy football previews coming up where we'll go through positions. We'll start, again, looking into some of the teams, previewing some of the players who have opted out. We'll, again, look into schedules. We'll start talking from a betting standpoint, too. So if you're an NFL fan, you've been waiting for NFL, we will be covering a ton of it. I'm someone who watches all the games every weekend after. I'll go back on Monday and rewatch every single one of them. I'll help you kind of recap and see if there were things going on in the games that we didn't find. So really looking forward to NFL. We can throw that on top of what's going on in baseball and in the NBA playoffs. And yeah, we're only a couple weeks out from the Kentucky Derby, that first Saturday in September. So we're going to be looking at, September and October unlike any time period we've ever had before. There are going to be more major sporting events going on, and we are going to have so much to discuss here on That's What G Said. Thank you, folks. Don't forget, subscribe, rate, review, share the show around with your friends, and let's kick some butt this weekend. Joey Cleveland, take it away.